kidding. All right, let's get to it. So, welcome everyone once again. This is Dominaria Set Review Part 2. We're doing green, we're doing gold, we're doing brown, and we're doing lands. So, let's get into it. Adventurer's Impulse. One green, sorcery. Look at the top 3 cards of your library. You may reveal a creature card or land card from among them and put them into your hand. Put the rest on the bottom of your library in any order.
It's only 3. Kind of reminds me of that card that you used to preach to me about, Oath of Nissa.
Yeah, man.
And I'm sorry, man. I'm not a fan of these kind of cards. I feel like you're gonna have some defense of it though.
Cardboard was liking it. It's not as good as Oath of Nissa. Oath of Nissa lets you find a planeswalker and perhaps an enchantment. I'm not sure.
Can Oath of Nissa get creatures or no?
Yep, creatures for sure. Creature,
so
land, planeswalker.
So is this like pretty much just worse than Oath of Nissa?
Well, it depends if you like having an enchantment out there. Oath of Nissa also lets you cast planeswalkers, right, without using any color. So
yeah, I mean it's not
strictly very good. That was very good for Super Friends decks.
Yeah, Oath of Nissa isn't strictly better, but for all intents and purposes, I think it's pretty much better.
Well, sometimes you want sorceries in your yard, and sometimes you want enchantments on the board. So, I don't know. I think this card is okay. I think Board the Weatherlight is better. But
yep, the white one.
Yeah. All right. Next. Ancient Animus. 1 and a green instant. Put a +1/+1 counter on target creature you control. If it's legendary, then it fights target creature and opponent controls.
Instant? That's disgusting. Kind of reminds me of Savage Stomp, but a little more expensive. That being said, it is at instant speed, but the target has to be legendary. I think it's a build-around card. You don't just throw this in a deck unless you have, a decent amount of legendaries. I think it's pretty good, and it's kind of annoying because I know Savage Stomp is kind of annoying, so I feel like this also could be a little tilting to go up against.
Yeah, this is strictly better than Pounce, which we had. And Pounce was very good in draft and stuff like that. So in limited, I think this is going to see plenty of play. If you're playing a bunch of legendaries that aren't dinos, then it's better than Savage Stomp. I mean, we don't see too much Savage Stomp. I see it around every now and then still, but...
Yeah, the fact that it's instant speed makes me like it a bit more than Stomp, but Stomp is also 1 mana instead of 2, which is a big deal for dinosaurs.
Yeah.
I don't think I'd run Ancient Animus in a dinosaur deck, but I think,
certainly
get that legendary deck. Seems pretty good to me.
Yeah, there's a definite potential for a lot of blowouts. This goes great on Ronus, for example.
Yeah, I think there's also a triple green card, which I don't know if is a legendary or not.
Yeah.
But that could potentially be a target.
Yeah, I think this will go in decks for a while, but I think once the deck is finely tuned, this will probably not be in it, and I don't see this going in the sideboard for any reason.
Yeah, I think it's probably gonna be gonna be overshadowed by Blossoming Defense if we can ever get our hands on that.
That card's pretty good. All right. Arbor Armament. 1 green instant. Put a +1/+1 counter on target creature you control. That creature gains reach till end of turn.
Seems pretty underwhelming to me. I like that it puts a counter on it and it's not just +1/+1 until end of turn. But feels like a pretty small pump spell to me.
Yep. Good trick and limited. All right. Baloth Gorger. 2 and double green creature beast. It's a 4/4 with a kicker of 4. If Baloth Gorger was kicked, it enters the battlefield with 3+1/+1 counters on it.
Probably not bad in draft, but I'm not going to be looking to play with this in my whatever decks I build.
Yeah, later on there's a 5/5 for 4, and there's Ripjaw Raptor, which is a 4/5 and draws you a card. So the kicker doesn't seem to be worth it. It's a relatively easy to pay kicker. 8 is okay, but still, even coming in as just a vanilla 7/7 is not on turn 8. It's not that great.
Yeah. Yep.
Yeah, Primal Bellow is good, Lebo, but I don't think we're gonna get that. That's from like Eldritch Moon or something, or maybe Origins. Broken Bond. 1 and a green sorcery. Destroy target artifact or enchantment. You may put a land card from your hand onto the battlefield.
Huh. It competes with Naturalize. I think I still like Naturalize more for the instant speed, but this certainly seems cool, like especially for a ramp deck, if you have a brew in mind for it. I like it.
Yeah. For a sideboard for a ramp deck, it seems better than Naturalize. I think there's going to be a lot more artifacts and enchantments floating around with the sagas and all the historic stuff.
Yeah, I wouldn't be surprised if people start running a lot more Brontodons and enchantment removal after the set rotates in.
Mm-hmm. I wonder if there's any artifact or enchantment of your own that you'd like to destroy with it. Then it wouldn't be so. Then you could main deck it and feel better about it because you at least will always have a target.
Yeah. You just put me into like overdrive trying to think of anything that can that I want to destroy, but I'm not coming up with anything. Maybe somewhere in the chat.
There's that blue enchantment where you get to discard your entire hand and draw a new one.
Oh,
then you
yeah.
get all those cards back. That's the only one I can think of. I forget what that's called.
Yeah, I know what you're talking about. It's kind of a junk rare, but
seems like a junk rare now. Just wait. Yeah, I don't know. This seems pretty meta dependent, but it is ramp at turn 2, which is very hard to come by. Induced Amnesia Shard got it. Yeah, it's hard to get Induced Amnesia off into the graveyard, but this is certainly a way to do it.
Now, you played a card, I can't remember what it was called. It was single green that let a creature explore and you may play a land from your hand. I'm just wondering what your experiences were with that card, because I've never played with one that lets me play a land from my hand.
I had a lot of fun with Enter the Unknown. Nice shard. You're ready. I had a lot of fun with Enter the Unknown. It's creature dependent, but it certainly got me ramping pretty early.
Yeah, because it seems bad if you don't have the land in your hand, but if you do...
well, you explore, so you get a chance to get a land in your hand when you cast it.
That's true.
From the explore trigger. I don't know. Generally, it went pretty well.
Yeah, I'm just trying to compare it to Broken Bond, because that also
saw
lets
people
you...
playing Wayward Servants. A lot of problems with these cards is making sure you get enough land in your hand. Like if we had something like Nissa's Pilgrimage, that always seemed to stack my hand with land.
Oh my god, I'd love to do Broken Bond, Nissa's Pilgrimage kind of deck.
Yeah. But we don't have anything that puts that many lands into our hand that I can think of.
Yeah. All right.
Yeah. Corrosive Ooze. 1 and a green. It's an ooze, of course. A 2/2 ooze. Whenever Corrosive Ooze blocks or becomes blocked by an equipped creature, destroy all equipment attached to that creature at the end of combat.
Feels like a pretty strictly sideboard kind of card. I don't think equipment is going to be that widely used. In fact, artifact equipment seems like it's always been one of the least used things in Magic. since I've been playing it at least.
Yeah.
So
Cawblade might
maybe
disagree.
who disagrees?
Cawblade.
Oh, that's the one that with trample it gets procs for each artifact, right?
No, Cawblade is a deck from back in the day that was like 70% of the meta and destroyed everything and used a couple of really nice pieces of equipment.
Oh, gotcha. But yeah, I think this. I don't even think it makes sideboard unless they surprise me here.
Is this a reprint, by the way, guys? I don't know if this is a reprint. CGB in there for the old references.
Yep,
I do like the flavor here. Nothing tastes finer to an ooze than a priceless family heirloom.
Yeah, and the art really makes it pretty cool too.
Yeah, but I don't think this even goes in sideboard. This card is just not good enough. All right. Elfheim Druid. 1 and a green. It's a druid, an elf druid. Surprising from the title. It's 0/2. You can tap it for a green mana, or you can tap it and add 2 green mana for kicker spells, or spells that are being kicked.
Yep. It's no Llanowar elves, but I think that you might be able to run both in the right ramp deck, and maybe just throw some kicker cards in there as well, and just really speed up, whatever turn you want to cast something on. I don't think I'm going to be playing around with it too much, but I can see decks that support this.
I don't know. I don't know if there's any kicker spell worth casting. Especially green. I have to keep my eye out because you do get double green, but it could go for any kicker because most kickers are colorless costs. I guess if you want elves, but I don't know if this is good enough.
Maybe Josu, the zombie guy, but yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, I guess if you're doing green-black ramp, maybe that could be okay. Yeah, yep. I don't know. I don't trust kicker spells right now. I don't think they're good enough. Oh, Grun. Yeah, Grun is a pretty good one to kick. That's probably where you're going with that card. It's true.
Is that upcoming?
Yeah.
Okay.
Fungal Plots. 1 and a green enchantment. 1 and a green exile creature card from your graveyard. Create a 1/1 green Saproling token. Sacrifice 2 Saprolings. You gain 2 life and draw a card.
This card seems too expensive for me. 2 mana just to make 1/1s. And the fact that you lose, stuff permanently to do it. I'm not really a huge fan of it, personally.
I kind of think you want to lose stuff permanently with all the Scarab Gods floating around.
Oh, so like Scarab God tech?
Yeah, because then you just make sure you have no graveyard. Also, once again, we're talking about Llanowar elves and stuff like that, so 2 mana might not be so bad.
Yeah.
Drawing a card is good. It certainly is not as good as Bitter Blossom. I'll say that. But I don't know. I think this could get some play. You can drop it super early. You always have something to do with your mana. Like once if you dump your hand and then you top deck a land, you're okay. You can make a couple Saprolings. You can even sacrifice them or chump them, gain 2 life, draw a card.
Yeah, I wonder if you could even make an Anointed Procession Fungal Plots kind of deck.
That could be cool.
That is kind of why I'm a little cynical of it, though, is because we're in a meta with Anointed Procession where you'll just get a ridiculous amount of tokens out, and this just does it 1 at a time for 2 mana, and you have to lose something for it. That's why I'm a little bit skeptical.
Yeah. Once again, though, I really think it's an upside that you're able to exile your cards from the graveyard.
Yep.
So that appeals to me. What up, Jester?
Yeah.
All right. Next. I say Gaia's. Do you say Gaia's or Gaia's? I say Gaia's.
Gaia's Revenge.
Gaia's Blessing. 1 in a green. Sorcery. Target player shuffles up to 3 target cards from the graveyard into their library. Draw a card. When Gaia's Blessing is put into your graveyard from your library, shuffle your graveyard into your library.
This card seems pretty fun. One use that I've thought of for it is that there's a lot of deserts that you like to sack, and now you can shuffle said deserts back into your library for whatever that's worth. And this card also makes you pretty mill-proof, which isn't really something that comes up a ton, but looks fun. I'm just not sure if it's going to make the cut for any of the decks that I'm playing.
It's hard to find card draw like this in green. You just get the draw card for 2. It's a cantrip with some weird side effects.
Yeah, we don't have a tireless tracker that we can rely on.
Legion Conquistador Remix, Squadron Hawks. Yeah, I mean, it's certainly like just putting 3 cards back in your library and then shuffling the whole thing just seems very random, which normally I'm a big fan of, but I don't quite know.
Yeah, I haven't really found a place for it myself.
I can't figure it out. I'm going to have to get my hands on it to make it good. And then, so you're self-milling here when it gets put into the graveyard from your library? And then
That's the thing I like about it, is you can get stuff back into your library, but it's not like you're going to get those cards. They're just going to get shuffled.
What you can do, I guess, is probably the best thing is kill Scarab God and then make him shuffle it back into his library so he doesn't get it back in his hand.
It says when it's put into the shuffles up to 3 target card. Yep.
Same for approach. You can make an approach deck player shuffle their deck right before they draw approach.
Yeah. We already have that like hate land. I forgot what it's called, but that I feel like is just better than this
Field
for
of
that
Ruin.
kind of thing.
Doesn't draw you a card in the meantime either.
That's true.
I like things that draw you a card. The mill heavy meta, yeah, it's certainly good against that, but I could definitely see some things you want to shuffle in, like approach and Scarab God. I mean, struggle to survive is good, right? And survive basically does the same thing. Isn't every red-green player playing struggle to survive?
Yeah, I think you just play struggle to survive just over this.
True. This goes in a different deck. And no, CGB, I don't really remember this card. I see. I like that plan. All right. Gaia's Protector, 3 and a green. Elemental Warrior, 4/2. Gaia's Protector must be blocked if able.
Just some big green creature.
Big green dummy. And he's an Elemental Warrior. There's not much synergy there.
Mm-hmm.
Pretty garbage. What up, Helion?
Yeah.
Shuffle own graveyard? You'd shuffle either graveyard, right?
I think the first half says
The first half is either graveyard. The second half is your own.
Yeah.
All right. Gift of Growth. 1 and a green. Instant. Kicker 2. Untap target creature gets +2/+2 to end of turn. If that spell was kicked, the creature gets +4/+4 till end of turn.
So we just got a big generic creature. Now we have a big generic pump spell. Not really a fan of it.
This does work well with that Elfheim Druid, though. Also, untapping creatures is pretty good when they produce mana. Whether you can get some kind of engine going like that. Of course, this costs more than the creature, kind of. But if it was like +4/+4 and Death Touch, or +4/+4 and Lifelink or something like that, I would like this more.
The best I can see for it right now is Glorybringer. After you exert it, you can untap it.
Yeah,
block something.
Any exert creature is pretty good.
Yeah. They'll never see it coming, too. Like, who's going to play Gift of Growth? And untap a creature, kill their creature, and then exert it again.
Yeah, sadly, Wizards printed Blossoming Defense, and it just makes all these other cards seem like,
Yeah.
This costs 1 more than Blossoming Defense, and if you don't kick it, then it's just, I guess it untaps, so it's not strictly worse, but it's weird. Lebo is in, though, which is good to know. Grow from the Ashes. 2 and a green, kicker 2. Search your library for a basic land card, put it in the battlefield, then shuffle your library. If the spell is kicked, search your library for 2 basic land cards, put them onto the battlefield, and shuffle your library.
I kind of like this, but I just don't know if I like it more than Spring to Mind and Hour of Relevation.
Our Promise.
Yeah, that's the one.
What other 3-drops do we have? Thunderherd Migration.
There's the life gain that adds 2 mana of any color. I'm just blanking on the name of it. CGB's punting me on pronunciation.
Yeah. I don't know. Once again, that Elf Druid that I kind of blew off is really good for this card. If you go Land War Elves into Elfheim Druid into this card, I think you can get it for 5. Let's see. You have 3 land. You have 3 more mana from the 2 elves. That's 6 mana, so you could kick it, and then you'd be up to 5 land by the end of your turn 3.
Yeah, I just see it feels like it gets too much competition from Hour of Promise and Spring to Mind for me. Like my deck runs 4 Spring to Mind and 4 Hour of Promise and just forgets this card exists, because if you have 5 mana, you can cast Hour of Promise, and if you have 3 mana, you can cast Spring to Mind. And this tries to do both. Obviously, it's no Hour of Promise, but I don't know. I feel like it's kind of underwhelming compared to what we already have.
I mean, if you're not playing blue, this is strictly better than Spring to Mind.
That's true.
It's strictly better than Spring.
Red-green ramp or just green ramp, something like that.
Yeah. I don't know. Like, there's a lot of possibility to start your turn 4 with 8 mana. That's pretty good. Turn 4 with 8 mana is pretty good. I don't know. I think this goes in a lot of ramp decks. Because even if you draw it kind of late, like, then it costs the same as Hour of Promise, and Hour of Promise is better. But if you can fit both ramp spells in, this might be good.
Like, Hour of Promise is just way better if you can get the 5 CMC effect. But for 3, sometimes you won't be able to cast your Hour. So
yeah,
in those scenarios.
Yeah, like, if you're using druids, elves to ramp you, then there's a good chance you don't have enough deserts on the field. You need 2 deserts, is it? Or just 1? 3 deserts?
You need to have 3.
That's a lot.
But the thing that makes Hour of Promise so good is that you can search for any land in your deck. Like, you could grab an Arch of Araska if you wanted to.
Yeah, no, I agree, but I think if you're ramping that spell out early, you're not going to have 3 deserts.
That could be true.
I don't know. I think it's cool. Here we go. This is a big fun card. Grun, the Lonely King. 4 and 2 green. Kicker 3. Ape Warrior. 5/5. Legendary. If Grun, the Lonely King was kicked and enters the battlefield with 5 +1/+1 counters on it, that makes it a 10/10, folks, for those doing math. Whenever Grun attacks alone, double its power and toughness until end of turn.
My question is, how do I give this guy trample?
Right.
I feel like they're gonna have trump blockers for it, but that's why I just really want to swing in with one of these, deal 1 billion damage regardless of whether or not they trump. Looks pretty fun. It looks like, one of those big cards that green likes to play. I like it.
Shard, you haven't missed too much. Yeah, I agree, Halion. I don't know if you want that much ramp, or if you want to try to have a 2-drop ramp instead of a 3-drop. The funnest thing I can think of to do with Grun is Hadana's Climb.
Ooh. Does that just win the game?
It does it's like 40-40 if you had pumped it.
Oh my goodness.
Wait, no, it's 80-80. Let's see if
It would be a
it's a
10-10.
5-5 and then it's a 10-10, then it's a 20-20, or it could be a 10-10 and then a 20-20 and then a 40-40.
This is a one-hit kill, assuming they're at starting life total, even if you don't kick it with Hadana's Climb.
Yeah. Jester says fling it. Fling wouldn't you wouldn't get the doubling of the power and toughness if you fling it. Because it has to, I guess you could attack and then fling.
Yeah, it's instant speed, so.
And that would do 20 damage if you had kicked it.
And they can't really interact with that unless they have a counter spell. Like you can't just kill a creature in response to a fling.
Yeah.
So I like it.
Attack then fling. Yeah, I don't know. I think Grun is very cool, and I think mono green Stompy might be a thing, and I don't think you can avoid at least playing a couple of these. It is legendary. But it's nice. It like plays around settle a lot. Because you just kind of want to attack with it alone. And if they settle it, you still got the whole rest of your board. He's pretty badass. I like him. Yeah. And I wonder if there'll be more apes. I wonder if they're going to reprint like Kurt Ape or something for the red-green ape deck.
Right now, he's the only one, it seems like, that I can think of.
There's probably another ape that we are forgetting. That's pretty bad. All right, Kamal's Druidic Vow, X and double green, legendary sorcery. You can cast this one, Shard. Look at the top X cards of your library. You may put any number of land and or legendary permanent cards with converted mana cost X or less from among them onto the battlefield. Put the rest into your graveyard.
Land and or legendary. So it couldn't just be a normal card. I don't really like any of these legendary sorceries just because of how you have to cast them. So I'm a little biased against it already. And you do need a fair amount of mana for it to really do what you want it to do. I'm not really a big fan of this card.
I don't know. I disagree. This card seems like a lot of fun. This card makes me think of Collected Company and Court of Calling. Everything comes into the battlefield. And let's say you do this for 5. You look at the top 5 cards, and you can put any number of lands or legendary permanents onto the battlefield. You're at least going to hit 3 lands or something. 2 lands. You can hit Grun. You can slam Grun. And if you're ramping, let's say you cast this for like 7. Anything that's a 7/7. I guess a 5 would not hit Grun because Grun's a 6. So I'd miss it. But if you could cast this for 7, I think you're in 7th heaven. You get
you just got to make sure you got that legendary out. And I don't really have a problem with...
oh, it is a legendary sorcery.
Yeah.
I wonder what... I guess there's one early green legend that we're going to get to.
Yeah. I mean, I'm kind of biased against legendary sorceries right now, but maybe I'll be proven wrong, you know.
We'll see. This one looks super fun. I never got to play with Collected Company or anything, so jamming these out is pretty sweet. You can get a bunch of sagas if the green sagas are worth getting. Like, what if you just have a ramp saga deck? Is that a thing? I don't know.
Our saga is all legendary?
Yeah. I guess they're all historic, but they're not legendary. So, yeah, I'm wrong there.
That's too bad. I was hoping they would be.
I don't know if any are legendary. Yeah, I agree with you, Beard. I don't think having a bunch of legendaries around is going to be too big of a deal, but we'll see. There's not a lot of good planeswalkers, that's for sure. But Nissa, Steward of the Elements, is a planeswalker that we have access to, and that helps kind of with ramp and other things. So you might see that card ending up in a green-blue ramp deck a lot. Crozan Druid, 2 and a green. Centaur Druid, 2/3. Kicker, 5. Or 4 and a green. When Crozan Druid enters the battlefield, if it was kicked, gain 10 life.
That sounds really fun, but I still think it's kind of mediocre. It's just a 2/3 for 3 with a life gain upside. I'm not really a huge fan of it.
Yeah, it's not even an elf, and it's not a horse. It's a centaur, so I know that pisses you off.
Yep.
Yeah, this is limited fodder. This one people have been very hyped for. Llanowar Elves. Single green. Elf Druid. Tap it to add a green. It's a 1/1.
So you can play a 3-drop on turn 2. Sign me up. Yeah, this card. I mean, it's the cheapest mana dork you can get, and I think people are gonna have to use like removal spells on it because they're gonna be scared of what you'll be able to do. You know, if you can untap with this, and that by itself sounds good to me.
Burn the
I
bird.
really like it.
Yeah. I think we're gonna see a heck of a lot of these cards. They're common, which is good, as they should be, but Beard says auto include in any green deck.
Do you think this is going to be like Winding Constrictor, where it's just you never untap with it, but it always at least eats a removal spell?
No, I mean, I wouldn't compare it to Winding Constrictor. That does two totally different things.
Yeah.
The general phrase is Bolt the Bird, and that refers to Birds of Paradise, which kind of does the same thing. I do think you want to remove this immediately.
Yeah.
Just one activation might already be too much. And
especially with, I'm going to call it green deck wins at this current time.
right on.
A lot of good green cards.
There's in fact a triple green card, which you could play turn 2, which we'll get to.
Yeah.
That is pretty decent, if I recall. Yeah, well, Magma Spray is still a thing, so you should be able to get Magma Sprays. You kind of have Lightning Bolt Helion, but not really. I don't know, this card's very exciting for a lot of people. It's an elf, which is exciting for a lot of people. I think it's great. It's going to be everywhere. I don't know if it's going to piss me off, because sometimes when cards are everywhere, they start to piss me off.
I don't think it'll hurt as much as a Savage Stomp.
Yeah. I was trying to think of a duels card that I really didn't like that was everyone always played, but
Sphinx's Tutelage.
I'm thinking more like Thraben Inspector, but we never got that card. All right. Llanowar Envoy. 2 in a green, Elf Scout. Pay 1 in a green, add 1 mana of any color. It's a 3/2.
I do not like spending. I don't like taking 2 steps back to walk 1 step forward, and that is exactly what this card does.
Yeah, this card's pretty bad. All right, Llanowar Scout, 1 in a green, Elf Scout, 1/3. You may put a land card from your hand onto the battlefield. You have to tap it.
I think this is better than Llanowar Envoy, but you have to have lands in your hand for it to work, and you also have to untap with it. Not really a huge fan of it.
This card's interesting. It's an elf. If you're looking for some kind of critical mass of elves, and you're like ramping and playing land from your hand, it's sweet, but I don't think it'll make the cut overall in a good ramp deck.
Do we get any Elf Lords later on, or any like Elf Matters kind of cards? You know,
I don't remember any Elf Lords.
Yeah,
a lot of these cards are good for limited. Yeah, I'm not sure how good just dumping a land is in limited, but once again, if there's a critical mass, I'm not quite sure. There might be a card that says, oh, there is a saga that says you can tap any creature for mana. So if you're just trying to shove out a bunch of cheap creatures and ramp, this is okay. Not great. Now, speaking of great, Mammoth Spider. 4 in a green, 3/5 spider with, of course, the obligatory reach that every spider needs.
Nice. That's all I have to say.
Yep. That's good sideboard in draft. All right. Marwyn the Nurturer. 2 in a green. It's got a little tiny baby elf. Legendary creature, elf druid, 1/1. When another elf enters the battlefield under control, put a +1/+1 counter on Marwyn the Nurturer. Tap her at an amount of forest equal to Marwyn's power.
You know, I want to like this card, but I'm kind of comparing it to Deeproot Elite, who can put counters on anything. This can only put counters on itself, and it's a legendary. That being said, you can, get a lot of mana, but it has to untap, and it's a 3-drop that starts off out as a 1/1. I don't know. I'm not really sold on it, to be honest.
Yeah, hopefully you can play turn 2 off your Land War Elf, and then turn 3 you play like 4 elves or something.
Yeah, unless there's like a ton of good elf cards that we're gonna see later on. Right now, I'm just not impressed.
Let's see what chat thinks. Talk about turn 4 Carnage Tyrants.
I feel like you can already get Carnage Tyrant pretty early with that 3-drop red creature, Captain Lannery Storm. Just attack with that and get a Carnage Tyrant ahead of schedule.
Yeah, I kind of want her to start as a 2/2, but then her second ability or her tap ability starts to become too powerful too fast. This does seem like another thing you have to kill, though, almost immediately.
Yeah. Generally on turn 3, though, like, they're going to have something on turn 3. I guess you could play it on turn 2, though, with Llanowar Elves,
Yeah.
like you were saying.
And you certainly need only elves. It doesn't trigger off any other creature, so...
Yeah, so if Elf Tribal is a thing, then this card could be good, but I just don't see it.
Yeah, we might have to wait for one more set before this gets going.
Yeah.
All right. Saga Hype. The Mending of Dominaria. 3 and 2 green. Chapters 1 and 2 say, put the top 2 cards of your library into your graveyard, then you may return a creature card from your graveyard to your hand. Chapter 3 says, return all land cards from your graveyard to the battlefield, then shuffle your graveyard into your library.
I initially was going to be super excited until I read that it was land cards. You couldn't just get creatures back. But you may return them with the first 2 chapters, so... I don't know. 5 mana for this seems kind of underwhelming for the amount that you have to spend just to get this to work. Maybe you can argue that Llanowar Elves makes it cheaper, but I'm not really sold.
Yeah, I don't know. This is a tough rare at 5. I like the art. I like the art on most of the sagas.
Is that Karn on the art?
That's what people are saying.
Cool.
It only mills 2. If it milled 4 or something, then you might be in more business, but there's a good chance that you have no creatures to return from the graveyard for chapters 1 and 2, or maybe only 1, and then you get back a bunch of lands. But I agree here. I would probably rather just play like Hour of Promise if I'm looking to ramp, if that's what I'm looking to do.
Yeah,
for
agreed.
5. And this is rare, and I'm not happy about it. I don't want to open this. This is like the second time I've said a rare saga I don't want to open.
And before you get 4 of these.
I know, I'm jinxing myself. All right, well, too bad for that saga. Here's something spicy though. Multani, Yavamaya's Avatar. 4 and double green legendary creature, elemental avatar. It's got reach and trample. Multani Yavimaya's Avatar gets +1/+1 for each land you control and each land card in your graveyard. For 1 and a green, return 2 lands you control to their owner's hands. Return Multani from the graveyard to your hand.
This card looks so fun. I'm really excited for it. Like, say you just cast it with 6 mana. It's already a 6/6 with reach and trample. You could even get it out ahead of schedule with Llanowar Elves on turn 5, and it would only be a 5/5 because you'd have 5 lands at that point. But even still, like, most of the time when you're casting this, you're going to have already a really decently sized body. And the fact that it has recursion just makes me very excited for it.
And trample.
Yeah, reach and trample. Like, those are 2 really good keywords.
Yeah, I like this card a lot. And it seems like this previous saga was kind of made to go with this card because it lets you put more cards into the graveyard.
Yeah.
But I like this card, and I don't think you need that saga.
I'm thinking of Jank right now with Sunscorched Desert. You could return Sunscorched Deserts to your hand to get it back and then ping them for 1.
Yeah, or just hash up Oasis and just keep pumping a creature and then...
Yeah, the deserts really work pretty well with her.
It's a her?
It looks like a female to me.
What do you say, chat? Male or female? This card, yeah, just looks like a ton of fun. It's possible to get out early, and then it's still not bad. My question is, what about Woodland Wanderer? That card was like a 5/5 trampler for 4. And eventually just did not make it into play. Like, it was kind of fun to play with, but eventually it didn't make it in any of the top decks.
Looks like everyone is oh man, it's a lore character, so it's undisputably a male. Feels
Ooh,
bad.
Ninja, burn. Yeah, I don't know. I hope it doesn't go the way of Woodland Wanderer. Woodland Wanderer, of course, you can't bring back from the library. The recursion is pretty sweet. Yo,
I always
bees.
liked. What did you say about Woodland? Did you like him or did you dislike him?
I thought he was a fun card, but he just never made it in the top decks.
I always liked Woodland Wanderer for Super Friends because, you know, you'd have 4 colors anyway. You could also use Ether Hub on them, but I think these are just 2 different cards.
Hashtag why did I invite Ninja? Talking about Super Friends? Oh my god. I played that deck like twice. Ramanov Excavator is sweet. Shard.
I'm really excited for this though. Just the thought about like using Hour of Promise and getting into those board states where you have like 15, 20 lands and you don't care about returning 2 lands to their owner's hand. Like that's not going to be important to you that late in the game. It's just going to be very difficult to deal with. I hope we do get Blossoming Defense one day because she's a pretty nice target for Vraska's Contempt right now.
Yeah, and Field of Ruin is good to recur as well.
Yep.
Scavenger Grounds could be good to recur.
Yeah, that's another thing is like, you know, there's a lot of good lands that you don't mind returning.
Right. And if you don't get the option, that means it's still on the battlefield, so you're probably in a pretty good spot. But I certainly like being able to turn 4 Hour of Promise, turn 5 this. Because then even though it's turn 5, you'll still have like 7 lands in play. So
yeah,
that's pretty badass. And you could probably do it Hour of Promise turn 3 and this turn 4. And that would be kind of the God curve, I would think.
Yeah, I agree.
I'm not sure how you do Hour of Promise turn 3, but it's probably possible.
This card reminds me of the Hydra from Shadows over Innistrad, where it was power and toughness equal to the number of lands, and it just seems like it's way better than that. Like, because that one only had reach. This has reach, trample.
That one could fetch you any land though, which was
that's true.
You don't see that on too many cards these days because fetching any land is
pretty
a little
good.
OP. There's some OP lands floating around.
Yeah.
All right, this card is a good one. We both agree. Let's move on. Nature's Spiral. Now, if Blessing of Belzenok made me think of a penis, this one makes me think of something else. Anyway, Nature's Spiral is 1 and a green. Sorcery. Return target permanent card from your graveyard to your hand.
I don't like this kind of. I mean, we don't really have too much recursion right now, so we're gonna have to accept it. But just feels a lot worse than some of the recursion that we had in duels. Like, I can't remember the name of them, but there were plenty of good green cards that brought stuff back. Gaia's something or whatever it was called.
Oh, are you talking about the Pulsa Marasa?
Yeah, Pulsa Marasa. That was it. And then there was the other one that was 1 mana less. Put stuff into your graveyard.
Yeah, I mean, this is a strictly worse regrowth, and regrowth isn't that good. In my opinion.
I like that we have it, but I really want to get something that does the same thing, but, you know, better.
Yeah. Maybe if it was instant speed, you could sell me on it.
Yeah, Hellions naming it. Grapple with the Past was instant speed, and it would put cards into your graveyard, which is generally preferable.
And what could you get with grapple? Land and a creature? Or anything?
You're gonna have to card it. I can't remember off the top of my head. Creature or land?
Creature or land. I mean, permanent is nice. But
Yeah.
once again, I just don't think regrowth was ever that good, and this is worse than regrowth. It's a brawl card, says Kruzix. Now we're talking. That's a good idea. Both Shard and Kruzix are kind of like, we get to get any permanent back. They're kind of excited. But I think it's only okay. And an uncommon, this is not gonna be my favorite uncommon to get when I open a pack.
Agreed.
Pierce the Sky, 1 in a green instant. Pierce the Sky deals 7 damage to target creature with flying.
Seems pretty bad. I'm pretty sure we just have a destroy target flying creature for 2 green. And I never use that one either. I'm not going to be playing around with this.
Oh, that's not what I was thinking of. Yeah, no, this is limited sideboard.
Yeah.
But I doubt it's like constructed sideboard unless mono blue flyers is really a thing.
It's a new meta, man.
But these cards always do okay in limited sideboards when someone does spike like a giant flyer, like one of those Jins or something. You would sideboard this card in.
Yeah, for sure.
All right. Primordial Worm, 4 and a green. It's a worm. 7/6.
Sandworm Convergence. This just helps that deck so much. All right.
You don't want to say anything about it?
Nope. That was all I had to say.
There always needs to be a big worm. That's all I'll say. You need a big worm or a big, I forget what else. Giant. All right. Now, we've been talking about this one a lot already. Sapperling Migration. 1 in a green sorcery. Create 2 1/1 green Sapperling tokens. If the spell was kicked and the kicker is 4, create 4 tokens.
I am super excited for this card. We're in a meta right now where we're already playing a card that essentially does this but creates 2 artifacts for 2 mana with no other upside. And now we have a card that does the same thing but with Sapperlings and has kicker 4. This card's just going to be great, and Sapperlings do matter, so I like it.
I think adding kicker to this card was a great idea. If it was just 2 for a 2/2, it'd probably still be good enough for a sapling deck or a token deck. But putting that kicker on there just gives it so much more play late in the game, and I love that. So yeah, this card, I think, I mean, there's a lot of people who want to try a sapling deck, and this pretty much goes in any one, I would assume.
Yeah, it makes me wonder if Anointed Procession Sapperlings is a thing. Like, imagine creating 8 1/1s.
Oh, I think people have imagined. Then you play your Tender Shoot Dryad, so they're 3/3s.
8 3/3s. Oh my goodness, yeah.
I think people are certainly. I have 2 Tender Shoot Dryads, so I'm about this.
You're about that life.
Yeah, I don't think Lana or Elves really go in a Sapperling deck, though maybe they can in some kind of sack deck. Because you use them early to ramp, and then they're not so good later, but you can just sack them off, or they get pumped by something like.
Llanowar Elves might be good because, like, slamming Procession on turn 3, for example.
That's true.
That could be good.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. But if you could also add a sack engine, where late in the game you don't really need the Llanowar Elves, you can just sack them and do something great.
Yep.
Seems pretty good to me. Sapperlings are true Selesnya. White green life. All right, Song of Freyalise. 1 in a green saga. Chapters 1 and 2 say until your next turn, creatures you control add 1 mana of any color. And number 3, put a +1/+1 counter on target creature you control. Those creatures gain vigilance, trample, and indestructible till end of turn.
Wow. I'm trying to be critical here, but when I see Vigilance, Trample, and Indestructible all in the same card, I can't be critical. I'm really excited for this. um, yeah, I'm a fan. You can ramp out too. That's just a lot of good keywords. And it's only 2 mana as well. So
Yeah. I like this one better than the last green saga we saw for sure. It works well with Saproling Migration. You know, you play that and your
yeah,
Saplings tap for mana, and you're just tapping mana.
I'm really starting to think that I want to make an Appeal to Authority Saproling deck and just make one of the Saprolings enormous.
Yep, green white seems good. I feel like this is a shout out to Craterhoof Behemoth. But with the last chapter, the
I
interesting
can see that.
thing about sagas is you know when it's coming. Everybody knows when it's coming. You know, it's not a trick or anything. And being able to either play around that if you're on defense or play into it if you're on offense, I think is going to be a really fun interaction. That is going to happen a lot.
It definitely helps your opponent out in terms of information. But you can just cast this on turn 2, so it's, sometimes even if they have the information and they might know what's coming, doesn't mean they can stop it.
Yeah, I'd much rather cast this on turn 3 or turn 4. Turn 2, at most, you're going to have, like, what, a Llanowar Elf, which already taps for mana? I guess it turns into a mana of any color, but I'd much rather do, like, Llanowar Elf into Saproling Migration into this, and then I'm tapping for a ton of mana.
I think you're right. I think if you slam this on turn 2, your opponent's entire objective is going to be to kill any creatures you have out at that time, so that it'll be like a whiffed card, Yeah.
Yeah, I think this is what Nomad was saying also about. He said board the Weatherlight and put up some stats. He said if you have 16 historic cards in your deck, you have an 80% chance to hit something at a 2-drop, and he didn't like that percentage. But I think board the Weatherlight is like this, where you don't really want to be playing that on turn 2 either. You'd much rather be putting some action on the board, whether it be artifacts or creatures, and you want to play board the Weatherlight more on turn 3 or turn 4.
Yeah, it is tough when you just play something that doesn't do too much the turn you get it out, when, decks exist like Red Deck wins, where you're sort of dirtling and they're just going to try and kill you before you can do anything.
Yeah. Now the question is, does 1 mana of any color make a difference, or is this mostly just in mono green or 2 color anyway?
I think it makes a difference. Like maybe you can run this to rock any of these triple color cards. Like there's a lot of intensive mana cards that this might be able to take advantage of. I'm not saying that's what's going to happen, but I like the fact that we do get to choose 1 mana of any color.
Yeah,
can't hurt.
Also, this is one that is not very great to stack. If you play like 2 in a row, their chapters 1 and 2 just conflict with each other. It doesn't add anything.
Yeah, so you're saying if you draw like 3 of these in your opener, it's just going to be pretty awkward.
Yeah, I mean, if you can chain chapter 3s, that's awesome, but crossing over chapters 1s and 2s is not going to be very good. So
maybe it's like a
bit of a bummer. Yeah.
For that reason.
Yeah, for that reason, I would probably not run 4, unless it just turns out to be ridiculous, which is possible.
Yep.
Because you certainly get to swing on chapter 3 almost regardless of the board state. You just swing. And put a +1/+1 counter on each creature you control. It's only 1+1/+1 counter. All right. Spore Swarm, 3 in the green. Create 3 Saprolings, instant speed.
Wow. I know Cult of the Feast is already a pretty popular card. Create 3 life-linking vampires at sorcery speed. And that requires black-white, which can be a little bit awkward. This just requires 1 green, and you can cast it at instant. I'm a big fan of this card. Just seems like it fits right into the Saproling decks that we're using, and I like it.
Yes. Call Callous Kiwi. Did I get that right? Yeah, sagas say that after the third chapter you have to sacrifice it, so it goes into your graveyard. Yeah, this seems pretty sweet. And instant speed is just like the cherry on top. It doesn't really need to be instant speed.
I can see like setting up combo kills. Like say your opponent attacks and you decide not to block it, and then you play this into Tender Shoot Dryad and win the game. You know.
Right. Yeah, I mean, this certainly goes in any Saproling deck. I think it's a 4 of. In a green-white token deck, I still think you probably play 4 of.
Yeah, I agree.
And this with, how many do you get off Anointed Procession? 6?
Yep.
That's a lot. That's a lot. Like
I think Anointed Procession found a really good home for these Saproling decks.
Yeah. Yeah. Green-white. Maybe I need to go buy some Anointed Processions. I have 1 Anointed Procession and 2 Tender Shoots. And most of these
I thought there were... Yeah, I thought there were some green-black Saproling. Like, isn't it supposed to be green-black?
Yeah, there's a lot of fungus in black that does stuff with Saprolings. I mean, people are saying Obzon. And the fact is, there is a lot of mana fixing available to green. So maybe Obzon. It works with the previous saga. Yeah, I like that too. You know, right when you know you're about to go into chapter 3 of the song, you can play this on end of turn and do stuff.
Yeah, it makes me wonder, going back to Song of Freyalise, if that's going to be something you run in your Saproling decks, or if this is just a bad card, the saga.
I think you could... I think Song of Freyalise is... I'd be more excited to run in a Saproling deck than in a Elf deck.
Yeah, because I'm seeing these things like create 3 Saprolings, and then you get 3 extra mana. That starts to sound pretty good.
Yeah, it does sound pretty good. All right. Well, speaking of fungus, here we go. Spore Crown Thallid, 1 and a green. It's a fungus, 2/2. Each other creature you control that's a fungus or a Saproling gets +1/+1.
So I like this even more than Merfolk Mistbinder and Legion Lieutenant because it's just easier to cast on turn 2. You only need a generic and a green. And from what we're seeing with these Saproling cards, they seem really good. Like, we already have Tender Shoot Dryad. We just reviewed, a couple of other great Sapling cards. And then you give us a Lord that, in my opinion, is just better than the Vampire and Merfolk Lord because it's just easier to cast. It seems great.
Yeah, Gemini, you cannot because it still has summoning sickness. Yep, this is a Lord, and it's a Lord for more than just Saprolings. It's fungus too.
Yep.
So you could definitely... I mean, this is auto-include 4 of in the Saproling deck.
Yeah.
This hurts a little bit in green-white tokens if you're trying to play other things that aren't Saprolings or fungus.
The only thing I can see, like, pushing this card back a little bit is if you try to pull the Radiant Destiny kind of thing, because it is a fungus. It's not a Saproling, so you'd have to choose which one you value more, but that's a pretty small downside.
Yeah, I think it's always going to be Saproling.
Yeah.
But I don't know if you need Radiant Destiny in those decks.
Yeah, I agree with you. I think Radiant Destiny is just going a little overboard for this kind of brew.
Yeah, I mean, if we didn't have this Thallid, then we might need Radiant Destiny. But with this Thallid, it seems sweet. And I think you want to be doing Anointed Procession and token making and stuff like that, as opposed to Radiant Destiny.
Yeah.
Pride of the Conquerors, folks, is still a thing.
Oh, man. There's just so many cards that are already really good that it seems like Saprolings can take advantage of.
Yeah, Saprolings seem like you'll be able to get Ascendancy pretty quick if there's any kind of good Ascend card. Tender Shoot Dryad's the only one I can really think of, besides Pride of the Conquerors, I guess.
Yeah, I don't think any of the Ascend creatures, unless you want that dinosaur that's a 1-drop.
Oh, Wayward Swordtooth? Oh, no.
The, what is it called? So the 1-drop 03 that turns into a 3/3.
Oh, Snubhorn.
I don't think I would use it, but...
Snubsies. Yeah, I'm not sure Snubhorn or whatever I was just thinking. Wayward Swordtooth is interesting because that's a 5/5.
Yeah.
But once again, it doesn't fit the sapling theme. That's more of a ramp kind of thing.
Yeah. I don't think you need him. Like, it seems like, based on what we've seen already, it seems like they're giving us a lot of good Sapperlin cards, but maybe you'll need to just fill in some, some filler cards that also help out. I'm not sure.
Gesture says gets cheaper with stuff that reduces costs. Yeah, so let's bring up Ronus's monument here.
Oh, man. I haven't been following the green deck wins that's in standard right now, but doesn't it have Ronus's monument in it, or am I mistaken?
I don't know about that. I have not really seen that deck too much.
Yeah, me neither.
Ronus's monument gets +2/+2 trample, which is pretty sweet. The question is, like the Vamps, is a Sapperling deck going to be more of a spell-based deck where you have a ton of spells to create Sapperlings, or a creature-based deck where you play a bunch of creatures? And it looks like it should be somewhere in between, but with Anointed Procession, you normally do more spells.
Yeah.
I can't remember if there's any cards that like produce a couple Sapperlings when it comes into the battlefield. I think there was a black one like that. I'm not sure.
Like an ETB create.
Yeah.
I can't think of any off the top of my head.
Sapperlings do seem super fun. I wasn't so sold on them when other people were getting hyped, but as we've done this review, I'm starting to get sold.
I wasn't totally sold either, but the more we talk about them, the better they seem to be.
All right, and this finishes off our cycle of triple casting cost. This is 3 green, Steel Leaf Champion, creature, Elf Knight. Steel Leaf Champion can't be blocked by creatures with power 2 or less. It's a 5/4.
This card's pretty ridiculous, and thinking that you can cast it on turn 2 is just nuts with Llanowar Elves. There's probably going to be a handful of games, and when I say handful, probably even more than a handful, where you're just going to have that curve, Llanowar Elves into Steel Leaf Champion on the play, and people are just going to lose just because of that. And the fact that you can't even block it with like tiny dorks, that's just nuts.
And for those paying attention, it is a knight, but it is pretty far from the other knight colors.
Yeah.
Yeah, this card seems great. This card actually makes me think of, what is it? Rona's, the card that gives you a 5/4 and doesn't let you
Rona's Last Stand.
Untap, is that what it is?
Yeah, for 2 green.
This card gets a lot better when you have a bunch of mana producing creatures. You don't really need a land to attack something.
Are you talking about Steel Leaf Champion gets better?
I'm talking about Rona's Last Stand getting better. Because if you just have a bunch of Llanowar Elves, then you can still do something on your next turn even though your mana is tapped down.
Oh, that's a good point. Yeah.
But
You can at least have 1 mana to work with, and then on top of whatever you didn't tap.
Yeah. Or if you play Song of Freylees. I still don't think Rona's Last Stand is that good, but it gets a little better with enough mana producers.
Yeah, I do think Ronus's Last Stand, it's pretty awkward, especially if they just have a bounce spell. You just tap to your land, it doesn't untap, and then, it effectively gets killed.
Yeah, it's sweet to play turn 5, though, with Anointed Procession out.
Yeah.
But it's certainly not as good as Steel Leaf Champion. This card is good, and it gives you a lot of game against red deck wins and stuff. You can just turn the race around, basically, because they have almost nothing that can block this guy.
Yeah, it also makes Galta, it's going to cost 5 less to cast just with this by itself.
Oh, that's gross. So that's turn 3 Galta is probably pretty easy if you have a Llanowar Elf turn 1.
Steel Leaf turn
4, 9. No, I guess you're still 3 short. All right, turn 4 Galta, though, is still pretty good.
Yeah, like this whole mono green deck that wasn't seeing too much play in standard. I feel like it's getting so much help that it could be a serious contender potentially.
Yeah, I was watching last night someone else's stream, and they were playing green-red dinos, and Galta was just so good against the GPG decks. Because the GPG decks just pump out a bunch of little creatures early. At least the Gate to the Afterlife one. And Galta just jammed through that, and in 2 turns they were dead.
Did they have all the Regisar alphas and whatnot?
Yeah, it was mostly based around Reggie and Galta. And
Fun
then,
combo.
yeah. And
I
then
think
they
those
had Thrashing Brontodons and Abrades, so that deck was super good against GPG.
Yeah, I really think that Galta is going to be an absolute monster with all the big green cards that are giving us. He's just going to be coming out a lot easier, and it's going to be a really good card to just win games. Just if you can even attack with Galta once, it's just devastating.
Yeah, and the black removal spell for 2 doesn't hit Galta. I wish I had some. I don't have any. Did you buy one? Or did you get one?
No, I don't have any.
I know Darkness has like 2.
It's kind of a tough deck to build with all the rares, unfortunately, but I don't want to get into the economy. That's not the point of the stream.
Well, it is. I mean, the point of the stream is to talk about this with Arena in mind. You aren't going to get a ton of rares, so you have to pick and choose wisely. And I think Steel Leaf Champion is a good start to a mono green deck. But
yep. Also, not a legendary, so you can run 4 of them.
You most definitely should be running 4 of these.
Yeah.
Cast out Halion, are you talking about? But I would think I would probably buy these before Galta, because you can just win with these.
Green seems like it also has a sweet sideboard too. Like you can run Thrashing Brontodon, you can run Deathgorge Scavenger. There's a lot of utility cards that mono green seems to have in their sideboard.
Yeah, and there's a sweet dino coming up here too pretty soon. And this card is an elf. Once again, we don't really have an elf lord, but it's important that it's an elf. I'm not sure what it's riding.
No, I'm not certain either.
All right. Sylvan Awakening, 2 and a green, sorcery. Until your next turn, all your lands you control become 2/2 elemental creatures with reach, indestructible, and haste. They're still lands.
I'm pretty excited for this card, and I want to build a deck solely around ramp and 4 Sylvan Awakenings, something like that. And it'll feel like a Rise from the Tides deck, except the lands will have haste. So it's not like they'll have a chance to just sweep the board up. Assuming you have like 20 lands out, it just gets crazy. Like the things you can do with this card, the more mana you have, and I'm very excited for it.
I don't know. I don't like it. You make good points. But 2/2? Meh.
I wasn't a big fan of Rise from the Tides because, they get to normally untap and so try to have an answer for it. But I think this is better than Rise. Maybe I'm being a little too optimistic in the number of lands that I can get out. But there's a lot of decks that I feel like this could do a lot of damage with.
Yeah, I mean, you could time this with chapter 3 of the Song of Freyliz, and then they get +1/+1 counters. Actually, no, because the saga would trigger like before your draw step.
Yeah, this deck is specifically going to be ramp. You don't just throw this in a random deck. Like it has to be probably red-green ramp if I had to choose, so that you can still take advantage of Lightning Strike and other sweepers that are in red. Maybe even Star of Extinction, because you're going to be trying to get so many land out. You can just run 4 Star of Extinctions or something crazy. It's not going to be your most competitive deck, but in terms of fun, I think you can get a lot of fun with this. Once you get that sweet board state with Hour of Promise, where you just have fetched so many lands and set up that lethal hit.
Yeah, I don't know. Like, people tried Like Jim Davis called his Bant approach deck a lands deck, and Thunder Mo's been kind of playing basically a lands deck. And I saw CGB trying to mill people out with Ipnu Rivulet. So if there's a deck where you're really just playing lands and cards to get lands, then this is fine with me.
Yeah, I
And
also
I
like
like
that.
that idea.
I like that the lands get indestructible too. That seems pretty relevant.
Yeah.
How would you? Could you name land with your Radiant Destiny? No,
They're
you'd name
elementals.
Elemental.
Yeah.
Yeah, Elemental. So you would actually be able to do that, but I think that's a little overboard on that combo.
Helion did mention Golden Demise, so these stay 2/2s till your next turn. So this really, you have to swing for the win.
Yeah, that's a good point until your next turn. So they would be able to hit it, but
But they're still indestructible, so they need the -2/-2. Sweltering Suns wouldn't work.
yep. Not even Star of Extinction would work, and they wouldn't even be able to destroy a land with their Star of Extinction, which I find funny. Hour of Devastation, yeah, that would work.
What is Callous Kiwi talking about here? Amonkhet that does insult to injury. That would be fun. That's a good
You
idea.
know what would be hilarious is that saga that destroys all land. You use this as tech against it.
Oh yeah, Helion mentioned that as well. Oh, I like that Armageddon. I'm definitely gonna be trying that. And welcome DMK. What up?
Yeah.
Yeah, I didn't like
This
this
card
card,
is-
but there's some fun stuff to do with it. I'm
Yeah,
starting to come around.
you have to have your sweepers with it. You got to run a ton of sweepers to make sure that their board is empty when you cast it, and then you try to win the game.
It doesn't have to be empty if you can just go wider. I mean, you just need 10 lands to hit. So if you have 16 lands and they have 6 blockers, you still win with it.
Yeah. What I'm saying though is I think Smoldering Suns, Hour of Dev, I think you're supposed to be playing those cards in this deck just to make sure that, they don't get anything too crazy going, because you are a ramp deck, and what ramp decks like to do is just stabilize with sweepers generally.
Oh yeah, I think you just stuff nothing but rampant. Like that's what I'm saying. In the lands deck, you just have nothing but that. Maybe a
Yeah.
Torment of Hellfire to win the
You know
game
what
later.
Yeah, you could also run 4 cut to ribbons with this, and then even if you're not lethal with Sylvan Awakenings, you could have cut to ribbons in the graveyard to deal even more damage.
Yep. So people are
Gem
talking about you
Sand.
have to actually tap 3 lands. So this does not say you get to untap lands. A lot of these say you can untap your lands and they go in, but this does not. So you do have to use 3 lands to cast it.
Yeah, that's a good criticism. Jem was saying insult injury. I like that, but the land do tap, which does make it worse the more mana you tap for this combo.
Yeah. All right. Let's move on to this big boy. Territorial Allosaurus. 2 and a green. Dino. 5/5. Kicker is 2 and a green. Territorial Allosaurus enters the battlefield. If it was kicked, it fights another target creature.
It's nice to see that Monk's favorite creature type is coming back. I really like this card. You get essentially a Savage Stomp like effect, and you do have to spend 3 extra mana to get it. But even if you're not, like a 5/5 for 4 helps Galta. Seems good to me.
Yeah, I mean, you guys think it's better than Ripjaw Raptor? It's a little bigger. And you get the kicker. I think it is. I think you play Steel Leaf turn 3 and this turn 4.
Yeah, I think I agree. I like this more just for raw power and toughness, and you do get to have a fight effect.
And it
in
does
there.
help the Galta for sure. And yeah, a 5/5 fighting is normally killing something.
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah, so this probably goes in. You think this goes in red green dinos or red green monsters or just mono green?
I don't think it goes in red green monsters because that deck likes to use Rekindling Phoenix, and I feel
Yeah.
like that's a pretty hard card to compete with.
Yeah.
That being said, mono green seems like it's getting a lot of help, and this is going to be great in it.
Yeah. This doesn't have trample though. It'll just be blocked by 1/1 Sapperling.
My only problem with mono green right now that I can think of is I just can't figure out any ways to give that Ghalta haste. And that's what, like you were just saying how you were watching the dinosaur deck with Regisaur Alpha give Ghaltas haste.
Yeah.
I can't think of a way to do that in just green. Which does make it kind of slow. It does feel a bit clunky in that sense. Like you're just playing big dorks. They don't have haste. Which is a big deal. You know, they get to untap and at least have a chance to interact with it.
It's a pretty big deal, but if you're threatening them with 10 damage with a Steel Leaf and a Territorial Allosaur, even if they kill Ghalta, they still have to face down 10 damage for the second turn in a row. Like, they should be scrambling for removal pretty hard.
Yeah.
Ronus gives trample, is what people are saying as well. But not...
Yeah, and Ronus...
Trample. Yeah.
Ronus fits right in with this deck too, because literally every creature seems to have more than 4 power.
Yeah, what are those boots? Greaves? Lightning Greaves? We could use those. Though that's not in the set, so don't get carried away, Ninja.
No, trample's I would say haste and trample are probably the keywords that I would desire most. So the fact that Ronus can give one of them is pretty cool.
Yeah, Swift Foot Boots. I agree. Yeah. I mean, sure. I know you love your hasty Ghaltas. You were talking about that when we did the Rick set preview. But I just think if you're playing a Ghalta around turn 4, turn 5, I think you're in a pretty good spot anyway.
Yeah, and even if they kill it, like you said, you probably have another, other big creatures on the board.
Yeah. I feel like any deck that could kill like a Ghalta that easily would probably also be running Essence Scatter anyway, so it might not make a difference.
One thing that I really like about this deck is that Carnage Tyrant also seems to fit right in. So even if they do have, Essence Scatters or what have you, you could easily just throw it in there, whether it be main deck or sideboard.
I don't have any of those either. I'm so far from this deck. It's terrible. And I've been buying Ixalan packs. I don't know why they can't give me Carnage Tyrant. Stupid wizards.
For whatever reason, they decided to give me 2. Not going to complain.
They know you, yeah. They gave me a bunch of blue and black stuff. All right, Thorn Elemental, 5 and 2 green, 7/7. You may have Thorn Elemental assign its combat damage as though it weren't blocked.
That's pretty cool because, if they blocked it with another 7/7, you could just ignore that and go 7 to face.
Yeah, what a weird mechanic. But that's how I read it too. You just... I mean, I guess the only thing is face or Planeswalker.
Is this just
But you need to attack the
better...
Planeswalker in advance.
Yeah, is this just strictly better than trample?
I mean, I don't know about that. You don't get to kill the creature too.
Well, you get to choose.
Yeah, but you can't split it like you can, I don't think.
It's unblockable, but can be killed.
Super trample
Sorta,
says Encyclobell. Yeah. Yeah, he definitely laughs at tokens trying to chump block, but so does any trample creature, really.
This would be the perfect card for like Primal Bellow if that ever gets reprinted.
Yep. He does cost 7. That's a lot.
Yeah,
It's a
he's
lot,
definitely on the jank. He's on the jankier side, and I'm probably never gonna play with him. But it's fun to just think about, what kind of things you can do with it.
Yeah, I mean, once again, Hadana's Climb on this guy is pretty good.
Shard saying appeal. You would have to have enough creatures for that to work.
Yeah, well, by turn 7, you should have something else on board. But yeah, somehow doubling or pumping it a lot seems to be the way to go with it. But,
You know what would work pretty well with it would be Resilient Kenra, especially if you eternalize it.
Mm-hmm. That gives +4/+4 eternalized.
Yep.
Yeah. I don't know. This seems just a little too expensive for my taste, but the mechanic is
Yeah.
super interesting, and I hope Arena knows how to implement it because they already had some issues with
They
attacking
need to implement.
planeswalkers.
Yeah, they need to implement coin flips for two-headed giant. And for any of you guys that didn't watch last stream, when you hear me say two-headed giant, I'm actually referring to a creature.
All right. Yeah, I don't know. Unblockable that you can kill. Seven mana is just too much for my taste. Even in
Yeah.
green.
Yeah, agreed.
All right. Untamed Kavu, 1 in a green. It's a Kavu, 2/2. Vigilance and Trample. If Untamed Kavu is kicked, kicker cost is 3. It enters the battlefield with 3+1/+1 counters on it.
So 2 for 2 with Vigilance and Trample. Pretty cool keywords. Kicker 3, it's a 5/5. I don't think this card's awful, but at the same time, I don't know if I'm gonna play with it because just for 2 mana for this, it's pretty underwhelming. I think you'd have to be using the kicker just to feel happy about it. It's not like a Sylvan Advocate where it's 2/3
Yeah.
with Vigilance, and then when you get 6 lands out, it turns into a 4/5 or 4/6 with Vigilance, whatever it is. This one, it's one or the other. It's either kicked or it's not kicked.
It's a good point about Kruzek said that the Steel Leaf champion was riding a Kavu.
Oh, okay.
I do like the Vigilance and Trample. I don't know. I think this is pretty decent filler for mono green until you get all the cards you want.
Yeah, I think that's a fair thing to
Whether
say.
or not I would actually spend an uncommon wild card on it, probably not. But if you get it, I think you're pretty happy if you're building the mono green deck early.
Yep.
And it works once again well with that Elfheim Druid where you get to pay 2 mana for the kicker. So maybe there's just like a kind of mono green kicker deck where you.
Yeah, like there do seem to be a lot of kicker cards.
Yeah, I made fun of
Well,
kickers, but in green the kickers are pretty good.
especially that one that can turn into like a 20/20 or something. Like that sounds fun.
Yeah, Grun. Yeah.
Yeah.
So that'll be interesting. All right. Verdant Force 5 and triple green elemental 7/7. At the beginning of each upkeep, create a 1/1 green sapperling creature token.
I'm not sure if I like this one. And I do love Sapperlings, but it's 8 mana actually. Yeah, it's 5 and 3 green.
Oh yeah, it's a lot.
And unless you're running a version of this deck that runs Llanowar Elves and a bit of ramp, I don't think this is the one that you're going to use. I think you'd rather be running Tendershoot Dryad pretty much anytime over this card. I don't think you should run both.
I kind of want to run both.
Yeah, I don't like it.
Kind of want to run both. I think you need that Saga, the song that lets you tap your creatures for mana. And then you can get to this pretty fast. And then you're producing 2 Sapperlings. If you have a Tendershoot out already, it's 7/7, so it makes it much harder to kill than Tendershoot Dryad.
Those are some good points.
I don't know if it's great. It's certainly not a 4 of, but I could see putting 1 or 2 of these in there.
Yeah, so you have the 4 Tendershoot Dryads and maybe 2 Verdant Forces, and the way that you get this card out is with that Saga.
Yeah.
That actually sounds doable, because you do get a lot of 1/1 Sapperlings with, especially with Anointed Procession. Like, I can see it.
Yeah, and Tendershoot. Like, if you land Tendershoot and it doesn't die, you should pretty much have it next turn.
Yeah.
But you need that Saga on time. But once again,
So-
I think that Saga's okay in your opening hand. You just hold on to it for a while till you need
So
it.
if you had 4 mana and like 4 creatures and played that Saga, you'd actually be able to cast him, because he'd be an 8-drop.
Yep. But you
But
need
it's
to
tricky.
pay 2 for the Saga. Yeah.
Do they keep that tapped for mana forever? No, just
No.
until your next turn.
Yeah, but it happens twice. So you can kind of rush it out and hope you get the Saprolings next turn and then tap them.
Yeah.
Shard doesn't think the power level's there.
I'm
Yeah.
a little skeptical as well because he is expensive, but it's something you're gonna have to test. I think it's pretty hard to evaluate just at face value. Like unless you're actually playing around with it, you're not gonna really know.
Need sacrifice. Yeah, this. I guess I was thinking of Force of Nature, but I guess this is a reprint too. But that was the big green card I remember from back in the day.
I will say, however, that you cannot run Verdant Force if you don't have that saga. Like they have to go hand in hand. I don't think you can run Verdant Force without it.
Yeah, that's probably true, unless you're doing ramp. But then
Yep.
you're not really doing Saprolings too much. Yeah, or if you could sacrifice Saprolings for mana, but that seems bad.
Gemini, yes, we did do the 4 colors 2 days ago, and is that on? Yeah, it's on the Twitch videos.
It's on Twitch and YouTube. Should be both be up there. Yeah, so we still have gold cards, brown cards, and lands to do today. But my guess is we are almost done with green here.
Yep.
Sure. Wild Onslaught. 3 in a green, instant. Kicker 4. Put a +1/+1 counter on each creature you control. If this spell is kicked, put 2 +1/+1 counters on each creature you control.
I actually like this card, but I think I'd rather be running not Appeal to Authority. The +2/+2 if you have the City's Blessing.
Pride.
Yeah, I think especially in the green-white Saproling deck, like I can see Pride being an easier thing to go for than Wild Onslaught.
Yeah, this seems like only if there's a mono green Saproling or mono green token strategy, then this card, you might play this card, but otherwise, it does not seem that great to me. Seems like a very expensive pump spell. Though you do get counters, not +1/+1.
Yeah. What saved it for me, like, and I still think it's a lot worse than Pride, but I do like that it at least has instant attached to it. But
well, yeah,
I agree.
Well, Pride is instant as well.
Yep, it's true.
All right. Yamiva Sapherd. Not to be confused with First of it's Yavimaya. Isn't there a Yavimaya Shepherd? So this is a little confusing, but this is Yavimaya Sapherd. Just 2 in a green. It's a fungus. Whenever Yavimaya Sapherd enters a battlefield, create a Saproling token, 2/2.
I actually am a pretty big fan of this card. I think it fits right into what you're trying to do with Anointed Procession. Also, that Saproling Lord does it give fungus +1/+1? It does. So this would get +1/+1 from your your Lord. Yeah, I think it goes right into the Saproling deck. I'm a big fan.
Yeah, we haven't seen too many 3-drops. The Saproling Migration was a 2-drop. The one that creates 3 Saprolings is a 4-drop. Anointed Procession is a 4-drop. The Lord is a 2-drop.
Yeah, I feel like we just do have to include some other cards in here, and it's probably not the MVP of your deck, but it still seems like it gets, the job done, what you're trying to go for.
Yeah, if you have the Lord out on turn 2 and you play this, then you get a 3/3 and a 2/2. That's not bad.
Yeah, that's true.
But I don't know. It's not great either. I'm not sold on it. If I could find better 3-drops, maybe just stuff in Steel Leaf Champions because they're that good. Not sure.
This deck could have the problem that I feel like the cat decks have, where there's just a lot of mediocre cats that you don't want to run. But I feel like this guy's passable at least.
Yeah, you could be running Queen's Commission, but then it's not Saproling. What other 3-drop whites are there? Maybe we'll find a gold card.
I mean, you could go back to the Radiant Destiny plan, but
you could be playing the Song Saga on turn 3, perhaps, because you don't want to really play at turn 2. That could be okay. We'll see. Okay. That's not what I want. I'm actually going to go to the bathroom here, Ninja, before we start on multicolored cards. That is it for green, folks. We're going to start multicolored cards or gold cards in any second. Entertain them, Ninja. Entertain them.
All right. Actually, I have a chance to read the chat now. Feels good, man. Obviously, you play that instant +1/+1 counter card when you have 4 Winding Constrictors on board. I feel like I'm sensing a little bit of sarcasm from Shard right now, because some of you guys might not know, but he was giving me some shit for my janky ideas. Maybe I can have some revenge and give him shit for his trolling. Entertain us? I'm trying, man. Are you not entertained? That's a line from Gladiator. Good movie. Check it out. But I don't know. What do you guys want to talk about? I'm not used to just talking. You know, I've been streaming Arena for a fairly long amount of time, and generally, I'm either talking about how much I like my own music because I'm narcissistic like that, or I talk about just the board state at hand, or I talk about how tilted I am because I get tilted a lot. That's generally what my what my content is comprised of.
I did see you get so tilted playing like that blue-black control deck and then begging for that Glory Bringer.
Yeah.
Off the top, and you got it, and you were pumped.
I think that's probably the most tilted I've ever been. I was embarrassed at myself.
You went from tilt to pump, and then just shut the stream down after that. It was beautiful.
Yeah.
All right.
No, I'm not saying to watch Glider instead of watching us. You got to watch it after. I asked if they are not entertained. I don't know if you've seen that movie.
Yes, of course.
Yeah.
It's a meme. All right, you do the reading this time.
Yep. All right.
And there's some
Adeliz.
fun ones to read, yeah.
Yeah. I'm probably gonna butcher all of these legendary names, by the way. You had to save the funny pronunciations for me.
keep on them, chat. You chose to be green. This was your choice.
That is true. I've done it to myself. All right. Adeliz, the Cinder Wind, 1 blue red, legendary creature, human wizard, flying haste. Whenever you cast an instant or sorcery spell, wizards you control get +1/+1 until end of turn. 2/2.
Woo! This is the one that I've been waiting for in the wizard deck. It gives every wizard prowess.
Yeah, including itself.
Yeah, and it has haste and flying. I think this card is very good, and it's probably a 4 of in some wizard decks.
I can just see a board state where they try to kill one of your wizards and you use the wizard counterspell and all of your wizards get +1/+1 because of it.
Mm-hmm.
I like it.
Or you just cast Lightning Bolt and
Yeah.
pump all your creatures and do 3 damage. Someone is saying this had flash in the leak. That's why I don't look at leaks. Or do you think they changed it when it was leaked? Flash
What's
would
your
be sweet. Go ahead.
What's your verdict on these legendary creatures? Do you think any of them are... Because I remember seeing like people run 4 Thalias back in the day. Do you think there are any legendaries like this one, for example, where you just run 4 of her? Or do you think she's more of like a 2 of?
I think this is a 4 of. If that's how you want to go about wizarding, I think this is most definitely a 4 of. You want this all the time on the board. There's never a time you don't want this on the board, and it's going to be an instant attempt to kill this card.
Yeah, and then you just have sweet counterspells with wizards. I love it.
Yeah, I just
Siren Storm Tamer. Yep.
It's as lordy as I think we get in the wizards meta here right now, and I really like the idea of blue red wizards. So this card is sweet, and it's an uncommon, which is nice, and it also triggers all that legendary stuff. It triggers legendary sorceries. It triggers anything that triggers off historic.
Yeah, that's true. You can get your legendaries in there. I like that a lot.
Yeah, and it's a very cheap one. Overall, I'm not that impressed with most of these multicolored cards, but maybe we'll change my mind as we go along.
All right. Well, let's talk about Arvad the Cursed. 3 white black. Vampire Knight, legendary, Death Touch, lifelink. Other legendary creatures you control get +2/+2, 3/3.
Well, so black-white knights could possibly be a thing, but this card is not that great for black-white knights. It's great for a mono legendary deck, which I'm not sure is a thing, because I think you need like 5 colors for that.
Yeah. I feel like this format may have came into existence to support Brawl, so there's a lot of just random legendaries in here because this is where Brawl is coming out. So,
Right.
and I'm not really that high on this card either. I think he's kind of a small body. I mean, I do like those keywords, Death Touch and Lifelink, but I agree. I don't think you're gonna have a legendary kind of deck that is gonna work that well.
Yeah, he's definitely not a reason to play black-white knights over white knights alone. And he costs 5. He's expensive. I don't
If
like it.
only he pumped other knights, then I would be all over him.
But this like becomes a commander in Brawl or something, maybe. I'm not sure. And I think that's a good thing, but I don't really know. All right.
I think this next card might be a Knight Commander. Ariel, Knight of Windgrace, 2 white black, legendary human knight, vigilance, 2 and a white tap, create a 2/2 white creature token with vigilance, black tap, tap X, untap knights you control, destroy target creature with power X or less, 4/4.
I think so, Sharon. I'm excited for the idea of Brawl. Anyway, this card, yeah, as you said, this is a reason to play black-white knights, and perhaps the best reason there is. I don't know. Tapping it to create a token for 3 mana seems pretty slow, but tapping it to kill random creatures seems great. It doesn't have haste, but it does have 4 toughness, which means you can't just abrade it or lightning strike it. And it's got vigilance, which means you can, attack with it and still tap it at the end of the opponent's turn, which is super cool.
Yeah, I'm a pretty big fan of this card. I hadn't really thought about it until I saw it just now, but for knight decks, especially of the Orzhov variety, yeah, I think this can fit in pretty well. It's got a decent sized body for 4 mana. Vigilance is nice, and both of the abilities seem pretty relevant. Like you just get a removal spell essentially with its bottom ability, and with its top ability, I mean, it does seem kind of mediocre, but hey, you might be able to get a knight, when they try to kill it or something. I don't think it's a bad ability by any means. Just might not always come up, but it's nice to have.
Yeah, this card is cool. But the question is, what are the other payoffs for going black-white knights as opposed to going white? I can't remember any black knights that really stood out. Maybe Josu was a knight.
The hexproof from
The other
White
hexproof
Knight.
one, yeah. But besides that, was there any other good payoffs? I can't remember.
There's probably some other knights in there that.
Because what
You
I'm
just have
thinking
to
is,
use
I
them.
don't think you can play 4 of these because it's legendary and at the top of your curve. So you play 2 or 3. And if you only play 2 or 3, is that really a reason to splash for black? I'm not sure.
Yeah, you could be right. There could definitely be a case where we don't have enough black knights, but I don't know. That's something you'd have to go into Scryfall for, because I can't remember off the top of my head if there were any other really good ones.
Yeah, we'd have to look at it again. All right.
All right. Dari Graz reincarnated, 4 black, red, green, legendary dragon, Flample and haste.
Mhm.
If Darigraz is reincarnated, would die instead, exile it with 3 egg counters on it. At the beginning of your upkeep, if Darigraz is exiled with an egg counter on it, remove an egg counter on it from it. Then, if Darigraz has no egg counters on it, return it to the battlefield. 7/7.
Dari Gaz, not Graz. Kind of sounded like you were saying Graz.
Probably.
It has haste, so when it gets returned to the battlefield, it gets to attack right away. This is a badass dragon, man. We haven't had any good dragons for a long time, and this requires Jund colors.
Yep.
It's legendary. It's hard to kill. It comes back. Let's see. At the beginning of your upkeep. What I don't understand is they're putting a lot of counters on exiled creatures. I thought exiling generally removed all the counters. But they're doing a lot of stuff where you have counters in exile. I guess that suspend is the same as that. Never mind. I take it all back.
Yeah. Like if they Vraska's Contempt it wouldn't get the egg counters because it would actually get exiled. It wouldn't die. But
Right.
how many turns would it be with the egg counters? So let's see. Exiled with an egg counter on it.
It's 3
remove.
turns, and then it comes into play. Hasty Flampling.
Seems pretty good. For big expensive creatures, it's not horribly expensive. Like 7 sounds doable. Sure, it's a little bit tough, but
Yeah,
I like
this
it.
kind of seems in Jun ramp. I mean, do you really play this without any ramp? I'm not sure about that.
Probably not. You probably do need to.
Like Our Promise would be good. Like just not a full out ramp deck, but something that plays Our Promise.
Yeah. Even Treasure Map could try to work with this.
Mm-hmm. People say it takes too long to come back.
That could be true. You said 3 turns before it's even on the battlefield again. That's a lot of turns.
Yeah, but then again, it has haste. So if you just play it and you swing in for 7, it's not bad. Pretty
Yeah.
hard to block.
It's also hard to kill because it's just so big. Like normal
Yeah.
damage spells aren't going to do the trick.
Certainly not. Certainly not. Yeah, I'm not sure. I'm not sure. If you're looking for legendary creatures, I would probably throw 1 in. I love
Yeah.
great big dragons that are awesome.
Yeah, I think it's safe to say that if either of us draws this, we're going to be playing with it.
Yeah, no doubt. No doubt. There'll be some Darigaz in the face. I was thinking about using like Temporal Sundering to get an extra turn, but that's blue, and now we're in 4-color land, which is a lot.
Yeah, maybe that Hour of Promise is what you got to do. And it does
Yeah.
give you creatures with Hour of Promise as long as you have 3 deserts. So
Yeah. All right.
All right, Garna, the Blood Flame, 3 black red, legendary, human warrior, flash. When Garna, the Blood Flame, enters the battlefield, return to your hand all creature cards in your graveyard that were put there from anywhere this turn. Other creatures you control have haste, and it is a 3/3.
This card is weird. I didn't like that vampire one from, was it Rick's, that you could flash in and got +1/+1 for each creature that died this turn.
It reminds me almost like they return to the hand, so that's a little awkward. I was gonna say you could cast it in response to a sweeper after it resolves, but they would still only go back to your hand. But that's still better than nothing. Like you get to have things to do at least.
And it gives things haste. It's a human warrior, which are not great subtypes, though humans often have a lot of good ETBs. So, at least getting those back would be okay. But it costs 5, and it's a 3/3.
Yeah,
I don't like it. It's too conditional.
that's the problem. Is if it were less mana, like you could easily hold this open and protect yourself from a sweeper, but you can't really do that. It's very hard to take a turn off with 5 mana open, especially in some like Rakdos beatdown aggro deck. I don't really like it that much either.
What Helion is pointing out is that it has to go in your graveyard from anywhere. So if you were able to mill yourself a ton, like with Fleet Swallower, then you could just cast this and get all those cards out of the graveyard into your hand.
There we go. Fleet Swallower and Garna.
Yeah, if you want to play Grixis Fleet Swallower. I'm not sure what other self-mill mechanics. There still just don't seem to be a lot of great self-mill mechanics, because trust me, I have been searching for some.
Yeah. I think we're trying to make a bad card good, and you just can't really do that.
Perhaps that's true. All right.
Grand Warlord Rada, 2 green red, legendary elf warrior haste. Whenever one or more creatures you control attack, add that much mana in any combination of red and or green. Until end of turn, you don't lose this mana as steps and phases end.
I don't know what red is doing with elves. I don't quite know what the lore is with that, but I don't know. Like if you're ramping, then you don't have that many creatures that are attacking. I mean, I like the mechanic that you get to keep. You don't lose the mana during your attack phase because that would be pretty bad. And this can at least ramp you. But maybe in a Land War Elf deck, and you're playing a red-green one for some reason, then this is okay. But the Land War Elf can already produce a green mana and doesn't have to attack. I don't know.
She kind of competes with Captain Lannery Storm for me, who also produces treasures, which you can use for mana. But maybe you can run both. California is saying sweet red-green monsters got better. I don't know if you're going to be playing this over Rekindling Phoenix, but you're probably not going to have 4 Rekindling Phoenix, so
It does
if
have
you draw
haste.
yeah, the haste, that's the big part of it that I like.
I guess this reminds me of Bloodbraid Elf. This is kind of a shout out to Bloodbraid Elf. But
Lately, yeah.
Instead of giving you Cascade, it just gives you mana to cast another spell.
Yeah. I've been using Crocodile of the Crossing in my red-green monsters deck
I know,
lately.
you're crazy. That's crazy talk.
Yeah. I'm just trying to think if this is better than that, and it probably is because you do get the mana, and it has more toughness, which means that it survives like a lightning strike, whereas Crocodile, if it targets itself, would die to a lightning strike.
Yeah, Seeking V, someone else. Angry Beard, I think, already said red-green monsters. The Lona is late, sleeping in.
Yeah.
Welcome, Seeking V and the Lona.
Yeah.
I think budget monsters, if you happen to draw this, it fits in, but it wouldn't make my final cut.
Yeah, I just think a lot of these cards are shouts out to other cards that were either good or nostalgic, and this is just a straight shout out to Bloodbraid Elf.
Yeah, it does seem that way.
So I don't know. It's cool. It's haste, and it does ramp you. Like, so if you go like Branchwalker, Brontodon, this, then you can play another Brontodon or Jadelight Ranger. That's pretty good. You can't play another Phoenix because you probably need one more creature.
Yeah. That's why I like Captain Lannery Storm, is because I can get like a turn 4 Glorybringer, whereas this mana would float away after the turn ends.
Yeah, it's pretty good at dumping your hand though fast.
Yeah, like if you have a lightning strike you want to cast and you're a mana short, this can help.
That's true. Yeah, I don't know. This will be interesting. I think this will pop up. It's legendary once again, and it's not that great, I don't think. So you're not doing 4 of, but it certainly should be slipped in. Maybe I'll finally use those 2 Rootbound Crags that I have that I've never, ever used.
Oh, I'm so jealous right now.
I've never used them because they're garbage.
All right. Another search for Escanta?
No, actually, I'm happy with 2. I'll take a
right.
Drake Haven, maybe. A couple Drake Havens could talk.
Okay. All right. Halar the Fire Fletcher, 1 red-green, legendary elf archer. Trample. Whenever you cast a spell, if that spell was kicked, put a +1/+1 counter on Halar. Then Halar deals damage equal to the number of +1/+1 counters on it to each opponent.
All right, here's another red-green elf. It has trample. It's 3/3, and it's very kicker dependent. But I think most importantly, what it is a turn 3 legendary creature, and I'm definitely keeping my eyes out for turn 2 or turn 3 legendary creatures to make those legendary sorceries work.
Seems kind of mediocre to me. Like if you compare Thrashing Bronodon, I've even been using Prowling Serpapard lately against control, and even against that, like You have to have a kicker deck in mind for it. I don't think it goes into red-green monsters because they just don't really run kicker cards unless you want to just invest in a lot of kicker cards. I don't know.
Yeah, I'm not
I
sure
feel
there's
like
any kicker cards that are really cheap. Like if there was a kicker card that cost 1 and you could kick for 1, then I think this card could get a lot better. But we don't really have anything like that. Most are expensive. There's one that has a kicker cost of 1, but that costs like 7 to cast anyway.
yeah. I think the biggest comparison I make to it is Thrashing Bronodon for the same mana, and it's
Yeah.
just not on that power level.
No, you'd have to want a red-green elf deck that does stuff with elves. I mean, if we get an elf lord, a lot of this could change. Because it does have trample, which is pretty interesting.
Yeah.
But yeah, good and limited, someone says. I agree with that. Because then you will be kicking out more often than probably constructed.
Yep.
All right.
All right. Joyra, Weatherlight Captain, 2 blue-red legendary human artificer. Whenever you cast a historic spell, draw a card. 3/3.
Well, I wish this was a wizard. I'll tell you that right now. Joyra was somewhere. I feel like I've just seen Joyra on a card, and I can't remember where. She's a 3/3 for 4, which is bad, but you get... It's the closest thing we have to SRAM, I guess. And
Yeah,
maybe you
that's-
dump a bunch of mocks, or maybe you've set up... If you set up some kind of engine where you're, like, recurring your artifacts, then this card is a must include, I would think, because there are those sacrifice ones, and there are things that get historics out of your graveyard. Then this is a must include, but otherwise, I don't know. I don't like that as an artificer.
Yeah, I like the comparison with Saram, but when I compare her to Saram, I just feel like Saram is a lot better at what he does. That being said, you can rely on legendaries and sagas to draw you cards, whereas I believe Saram is like vehicles and equipment or
Enchantments,
something.
Vehicles, auras.
Yeah, vehicles and auras. I don't know. I feel like you do need to build around pretty heavily if you're going to be running this card.
Yeah, I think there's a super fun jank deck that does historic recursion, and then this, you definitely want a few of these. But
Yep.
otherwise, it's going to be a tough mythic to pull, I think.
Yeah, it would not be one of the mythics that I would be like ecstatic to pull.
She doesn't even trigger herself. That's true. Another important point, though, is that all you have to do is cast the historic spell. It doesn't actually have to enter the battlefield or anything.
Yeah.
So, and it works on it triggers a legendary sorcery, and you draw a card off the legendary sorcery. Drawing cards is good, folks.
Yeah.
All right.
Joda,
Mhm.
Archmage Eternal, 1 blue, red, white, legendary human wizard, flying. You may pay white, blue, black, red, green, rather than pay the mana cost for spells that you cast. 4/3.
This card is weird. Joda the Unplayable. So it's just Sky Colors. It's a flying 4/3 for 4, which is pretty decent. And it says you can use every color rather than pay the mana cost for spells you cast. Now, I just got a card. There's a land that is... I'm not sure for what it is. I can't think of the name. That you can tap the land and 5 colorless mana, and it produces 5 mana of any color. So you need 4 of those lands in this deck. And then I think you can trigger this all the time. But the question is, what kind of spells are you costing where this is like a bargain?
Yeah, you have to run super expensive stuff.
Super expensive stuff. Like even the Bolus's Grasp or whatever is only 6. So you're only saving 1 mana, and you're not if you're using whatever land that I'm talking about is, but I can't remember the name.
Yeah, I think he was printed specifically for Brawl and Commander so that you can run a 5-color deck, but I'm not a big fan of him at all. Seems pretty bad.
Emmercools. Yeah, I mean, you can cheat in some big stuff. You can cheat in Razakath. You can cheat in... But you really got to be cheating in, Ulamog would be great.
Yeah, you also have to, make a lot of concessions to your mana base just to do that.
Yeah, I agree, sure. Well, that's what I'm saying is if you run this one land, then you don't really have to make any concessions to your mana base. You just have to run that land. And there are a lot of artifacts, too. Like you can use the Mox. If you use the Mox, you can get 3 colors. You can use the Power Stone. You can use Gilded Lotus, which we're going to talk about. But I agree with Shard. I just don't think there's enough payoff cards for it in what we have right now. Awakening Sun's Avatar, that would kill it. Galta's weird. That's not really how you want to cast Galta.
Even if you get it out, too, it just dies to a Lightning Strike, which isn't that uncommon.
Everything's a spell. Creatures are spells. Everything is a spell.
That is cool that it hits everything, but...
Yeah. Like Planar Bridge, or I'm just trying to think. Sandworm Convergence would be nice.
Jam all the curses.
I don't know. This card is certainly in the land of jank and perhaps Brawl. I still don't really get Brawl.
I think even janky players are going to scoff at this card.
I don't know, man. A 4/3 fire for 4 is not that bad, Like, you have a lot of these other gold cards were seriously badly priced. Like that Black-White Knight for 5, that was a 2/2 or a 3/3.
Yep.
4/3 for 4 is flying is pretty good. That's all I'm going to say about that.
All right. Mold Rotha, the Grave Tide, 3 black, green, blue. Legendary Elemental Avatar. During each of your turns, you may play up to 1 permanent card of each permanent type from your graveyard.
It's a 6/6. It's in what colors are these? Sultai. And it finishes off the Elemental Avatar cycle or the Avatar cycle. Boy, that ability seems pretty freaking great if you're playing a bunch of permanents. That has to be in your graveyard, and
different types.
They have to be different types, but if there's good sagas out there, then like you'll always have an enchantment. And then if there's good artifacts, you might always have that. And then you get a land always, and you get...
Reminds me of Delirium.
Yeah. I don't know. I think you need like ramp to play this and self-mill. This card is nuts, says California.
I mean, it sounds pretty good if you can get like a sweet graveyard with a ton of different, types and...
Yeah, Thelona says Explore. So Sultai Explore is the thing. So this is pretty good. Even though blue doesn't really have any Explore creatures.
Yeah. 4 Jade Light Ranger, and this seems pretty sweet.
Yeah. Seeker Squire. And, you don't need to ramp, I guess. If you're exploring, then you can get turn 6 mana on turn 6 pretty easily.
Yeah, 6 mana is not too prohibitive.
And they say Lily. Lily just kind of does the same thing. But yeah, I think Thelona's exactly right. I mean, this screams for Explore decks. I was playing Sultai Explore, and that was mainly to splash for Hostage Taker, which is okay.
Speaking of Liliana, I think this would function pretty well with Death's Majesty. You would just put 2 cards into your graveyard, and if you milled this, you can get it back.
So what's interesting is you may play the card. So you don't get a cast trigger, but you do get an ETB trigger. And I don't think there's any kind of triggers that say just play. I guess when something enters, well, that's an ETB trigger.
Do you play it for free, or do you still have to spend the mana to play it from your graveyard?
I think you just play it for free. I think you just cheat, right? Strategic planning.
That's what I thought.
strategic planning, some explore. I'm on board. Give me this card, and I will most certainly brew a deck. I don't think I'm going to buy it, but I will most certainly brew a deck.
Oh, you do have to pay for it.
You
Well,
have to pay.
That makes it a little bit worse.
All right. Well, you can't cheat, but whatever. I guess that's why it says play instead of put onto the battlefield, and definitely not a cast trigger.
Actually, you know what you could do? You could run this. It would be kind of like a Journey to Eternity deck. There's a card called Banewhip Punisher where
Someone played that on me yesterday.
yeah, and for anyone that doesn't know, it puts a minus counter on target creature, and if you sack it, it destroys target creature with a -1 counter on it. That's a card that can just kill itself and go into your graveyard, and that you can get back turn after turn. So you're trying to get these like nasty recursion cards, you know, that just gradually, you know, wither down their board state.
Yeah, that's a pretty good one. Maybe if there were some black cards where you sacrifice a creature or an artifact to do something. Anything that is self-sacrificing seems like it might be really good with this card.
Thrashing Bronodon.
Yep. Yep. Yeah, this card's pretty fun. 3 colors is rough, but that's what all these cards basically are, so.
The only thing I'm wondering is if it just competes with Journey to Eternity, or if you can run both. Maybe you can just run both.
Yeah, I don't know. Is you still here? I don't know about Journey to Eternity. I think I would rather just be exploring until I play this card, or using things like Banewhip Punisher or something. Right.
All right, Oath of Teferi. Is that how you say it? Teferi?
Teferi is what I say, yeah.
Yeah. All right, 3 white, blue. Legendary enchantment. When Oath of Teferi enters the battlefield, exile another target permanent you control. Return it to the battlefield under its owner's control at the beginning of the next end step. You may activate the loyalty abilities of planeswalkers you control twice each turn rather than only once.
Super gross. Super gross. Luckily, there don't seem to be that many good planeswalkers right now.
Teferi.
Teferi. But Liliana, I guess it's fine. Like Chandra Torch of Defiance is definitely bad. Then you're playing Jeskai Planeswalkers, which is fine. And the first part of this is interesting. You get to bounce your own thing.
You know what sounds pretty disgusting is using Oath of Teferi alongside that removal spell, like Liliana's removal spell that adds 2 loyalty counters to a planeswalker you control, and then you run an Esper deck with like a ton of planeswalkers.
Yeah, I mean, you're just ultimating planeswalkers. The problem is Big Black Lily's ultimate is not great. Liliana's Just Majesty. What up, Cobra, by the way?
Yeah, what are like the best ultimates? And I'm talking Esper, but there's other ultimates in other colors.
Getting a Trials is not great to ultimate. It doesn't actually ultimate.
Teferi's ultimate is probably game-winning most of the time.
Yeah, but it seems weird to play Oath of Teferi just for one planeswalker.
Yeah, it's definitely a card that it has a high power level, but it doesn't have an immediate impact on the board.
I mean, maybe you could play that Jace from Ixalan and start making just a buttload of Jaces and crash Arena.
Yeah. You know what I don't like? It says you have to exile. It's not like a you may exile target permanent you control.
Yeah, but like ideally, I assume you want to do it with the Saga or even a Planeswalker to get
reset its loyalty.
But I was thinking Sagas or Torrential Gearhulk would be a good one to choose. Or anything with a good ETB hostage taker.
It'd be pretty disgusting on any of those cards. It'd be pretty sick on a Teferi himself. You'd be able to draw 2 cards, or I forgot what all of his abilities do, but you get the picture.
Yeah, and someone mentions it is a permanent, not a non-land permanent. So you could just flicker a land. And
That's true.
And in fact, that would actually could untap a land for you, so you could hold a land up for a counterspell or something.
Yeah. So not really a huge downside to his you must exile effect.
With this card, you draw 2 cards too. I don't know about. Oh, you talk about Teferi.
I think, yeah, if you activate Teferi twice.
This is interesting. It's certainly legendary. I don't think you'd ever run 4 unless you were playing specifically Super Friends. Otherwise, you put maybe 1 or 2 of these in, and sometimes it does a ton of work for you.
Yeah, in fact, unless Super Friends is a thing, this card is probably bad, right? Because you need Super Friends to be good.
If you're flickering stuff, though, flickering is not terrible. Like, it could have a big upside.
Yeah.
Oh,
There's probably a cheaper way to flicker something, though.
Oh, there sure is. But this, I mean, the double loyalty abilities is the thing. Like, think of it. Chandra Torch of Defiance, you could do 4 damage, or you could ramp for 4, or
yeah,
Jaya Bellard, you could discard up to 6 cards.
Yeah. Do you think you run like Super Friends and a ton of sweepers, Oath of Teferi, and some Planeswalkers?
Maybe. I don't like thinking about Super Friends. I don't like this card because I don't like the idea that it encourages Super Friends. But
yeah.
I'm trying to be objective about it.
Yep.
All right.
Okay. Primeval's Glorious Rebirth. 5 white-black legendary sorcery. Return all legendary permanent cards from your graveyard to the battlefield.
All right. Well, I said the black legendary sorcery was probably the best, but effect-wise, this one is clearly the best. This effect is nutso bonkerzo, but it does cost 7, and it is, of course, a legendary sorcery.
It fits right in with Death's Majesty, who mills you. You just gotta find, efficient ways to mill yourself, and then eventually you cast this, and you just get everything back that's a legendary in there. This sounds amazing.
Yeah. I think I disagree with you, California. I think the Planeswalker ruling would overtake that, saying that you can only activate Planeswalkers at sorcery speed. So I don't think you'd be able to do it on the opponent's turn. Yeah. Once again, legendary permanents. You don't even need to really mill for this. Like, if you're just playing the game, eventually this card is going to be good for you, because if you put threats on, they'll have to kill it. I really wish there were more legendary lands. The only legendary lands I can think of are the flip enchantments. But being able to get back a legendary land would be super sweet.
The one thing that I don't like about this card is that you need to run a lot of legendaries for it to work. So you'll have a lot of random, like 2-ofs and whatnot. And that could be awkward for deck building. But at the same time, if you're ever able to cast this and have, a good amount of legendaries in your yard, you're going to be probably winning the game.
Yeah, and I guess I haven't heard anyone talk about Brawl, but this seems to be not so in Brawl, right?
Yeah, seems pretty good for Brawl.
Yeah, it's just so many ETBs, so many things that could happen. Also could be good in Explore, though. White and black aren't my favorite colors for Explore. Green is my favorite.
There's some good cards in black and white too, like Vona comes to mind that you could get back, and I'm sure there's tons of others.
Yeah, you can get Liliana, you can get Gideon in Trials. I mean, you can get some Planeswalkers.
Yep.
All right.
Okay. Wrath Capuchin, Ship's Mage, 2 white-blue, legendary human wizard, flash flying. You may cast historic spells as though they had flash.
So we talked about this card already a little bit, because we were talking about flashing in historic spells for some other card. I can't really remember the other card name. But for that deck, this card was awesome. But I think it's for a very specific deck. I don't think there's many white wizards. I don't think you really want... If you're playing wizards, I think you want to be Izzet. So this is weird. This is for white, blue, historic, or artifact deck.
Yeah, it seems very difficult to build around this. Like, you got to have some plan in mind that involves artifacts, legendaries, and sagas at flash speed, and that just sounds really awkward in of itself. So, as fun as it looks, I kind of am not a fan of it.
What was that card? Let me look for that card for 1 second. There was something that I wanted to have flash for. I think it was white. Oh,
I don't know why, but I completely forgot whatever conversation this was.
Ancestor's Apostle says that whenever you cast a historic spell, return target creature from the graveyard to the battlefield. That's a pretty good one. There was something else, though. I don't know if anyone remembers what I'm talking about, but me. Tap target creature. Oh,
Was
maybe
this
it
the
was
one
Daring Archaeologist.
The one that returns artifacts or something?
Yeah, that wasn't quite it either. Maybe it was a blue card. Let me just look a little bit more here. I give up. All right. People like this card. It's interesting, but I think it's very niche.
Yeah, I think I would get a headache trying to figure out how to build the right deck for this.
3/3 flyer for 4 is not great, but flash is okay. It means you get to generally you get to go off with this at least once. Because you could play this at the end of the opponent's turn on turn 4 and then dump anything else if you still had mana, but you probably don't still have mana. It is legendary, so this works well with Moxin.
I guess you can flash your your legendary creatures in to create blocks.
Yeah, people are talking about flashing in Planeswalkers on end step. Legendary sorceries are historic. Anything legendary is. Yeah, there's a lot of cool things you can flash in that's either legendary or a saga. Like all those flip enchantments are legendary enchantments. You can put this stuff in at end of turn, like a Hadana's Climb or our Journey to Eternity. Makes it much safer to cast Journey. Tempo Super Friends. Yeah, I don't know. It seems like something you have to answer. Otherwise, you never know what might happen to you. All right.
Okay. Rona, Disciple of Gix. Or is it Jix? 1 blue black legendary human artificer. When Rona enters the battlefield, you may exile target historic card from your graveyard. You may cast non-land cards exiled with Rona. 4 and tap, exile the top card of your library. 2/2.
This card seems pretty meh. You only get 1 card you get to put away initially with it. You do get to choose whatever you want from your graveyard, and then you can start using it off the top, but this just seems too dirtily. It's a 2/2. Doesn't do anything. It's legendary. I don't like this. Unless, once again, you're looking for 3-drop legendary creatures for legendary sorcery.
Yeah, no, I agree. It's small body, and it takes a lot of work just to start using this for any amount of value.
Flash in Sky Sovereign. That's gross, Shard, but that's true. Yeah, I don't know. I don't like this one.
Yeah.
I don't see much play to it. It's too hard to work out. She's really Kano. Nice. Mortal Kombat shout out. All right.
All right. Shauna, Sisei's Legacy, green, white. She cannot be the target of abilities your opponents control. Shauna gets +1/+1 for each creature you control. 0/0.
This card's pretty sweet. This, I think, goes in green-white tokens. I think you play 4. Well, maybe not 4 because it's legendary, but if you're playing green-white tokens, I think this card gets very big very fast. Can't be the target of
I
abilities your
agree.
opponent controls. Maybe it doesn't make it in green-white sapperlings because you just want to do the sapperling thing, but if you're doing a different token strategy, I think this is pretty sweet.
She might just thrive in sapperlings. Like Glorybringer can't kill her as well. That's another cool detail.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know. It's hard to tell if it would work in sapperlings or not. Obviously, if she's like the only creature out, she's garbage. But if you can get into those sexy board states to with your anointed processions, then yeah, she's gonna do some work for you.
Yeah, it's a 2-drop legendary, which might be the cheapest legendary creature in the game. So once again, if you're looking for legendary sorceries, you could even play this and a legendary sorcery in the same turn a lot of times, probably. Crasher proof,
Ooh, that
Earthshaker
looks good.
Kenra proof,
Yeah.
Chupacabra proof. Yeah, this
Wow.
card's pretty good. It's legendary, so I don't think you can play 4 unless that's really your game plan, but certainly I'll be happy to pack this and put it in a green-white token deck of almost any form.
If we ever get Blossoming Defense, she's just gonna be impossible to kill. Yeah, I really like that ability. Like, just bringing up that Chupacabra can't even do anything about her. It just turns into a dumb 2/2.
Does this work for Scarab God when it's in the graveyard? I would think so. I think Scarab God would not be able to target her.
Yeah, that's a very good question. We'll see what the verdict in the chat is.
Cast down is that terror one, Halion? The one in black that's... The chat was kind of split on that. Cast down seemed really good to me, but then people brought up a lot of legendary creatures like Galta that it will not hit. I don't know. I was really on board with cast down above Moment of Craving, but some people convinced me that it's maybe not as great as I think it is.
Is Cast Down the -5/-5 if you sacrifice a creature?
No, it's destroy target non-legendary creature for 2
Oh,
at
yeah,
instant
yeah.
speed. I don't know. I don't think it'll have as big an effect as you might think. And Ninja's is going to be playing his White Knights, so he's just going to laugh at cast down. 'Cause he's just going to...
I'm having trouble thinking of how much I like Shauna because I know we had, and I'm forgetting the name of it. It's the 2/2 card from Shadows of Innistrad, where if you control 4 or more permanents, it transforms, and then it just starts spawning 1/1s. I'm trying to think if I like this more than it, but they do seem pretty different. Like she can, as we said, she dodges a lot of good ETB effects. And you just really have to have a board state. Like, if you don't have that super wide board state, she's probably just bad, but...
I don't know. It's a decent 2-drop. It comes in as a 1/1 or hopefully a 2/2. And then the next turn you play 1 or 2 things and you're in business. Then she's like, what, a 4/4 attacking on turn 3? It's not bad.
I don't know if you want to play her on turn 2, just because she is a 1/1 at that point, but maybe you do if they don't kill her,
Yeah. I mean, I like attacking them with a 4/4 on turn 3. It's nice when tokens have this kind of back and forth where you have like one giant creature and then a ton of little creatures, so that you can either go wide or push through with a big creature. And this is like the perfect card for that kind of interaction.
California is pointing out that you can kill her with Fiery Cannonade because it would kill all the other creatures and then she would die. So
Boo,
pretty much
California. Boo.
Yeah, I guess any sweeper would make short work of her.
Yeah. But sweepers are bound to screw token decks in general.
Do you think you're going to be running her in your Sapperling deck or no?
At least at the beginning, if I get one. In the end, I'm not sure. I don't know if there's a green-white humans deck, because she's not a knight. If she was a knight, it would synergize a little better with some of the knight stuff, which you could do. But
I think there's definitely the like the City's Blessing green-white deck. It's not necessarily humans, but maybe she could fit in that. I don't know.
Like with Sky Marcher Aspirant and things like that.
Yeah.
Yeah. All right.
Okay. Slimefoot, the stowaway. 1 black-green. Whenever a sapling you control dies, Slimefoot, the stowaway, deals 1 damage to each opponent and you gain 1 life. 4 mana, create a 1/1 green sapling creature token, 2/3.
This card's ability isn't great, but it is a legendary creature on turn 3, which means it can also get benefit from the Lord because it's a fungus. I think you play some of these.
Seems really mediocre to me. But then again, maybe you can cast it and you have a really wide board state, and anytime a sapling dies, you're going to be pinging them, which could add up over time.
Yeah, I think it would most definitely will add up. Like it reminds me of Sanctum Seeker in that way, where you just attack with so many tokens, they have to block them, and then their death is inevitable. It gives you a bit of reach. It's a good curve filler. I do think, once again, cheap legendary creatures are good. I think I would put this in.
Yeah, I'm starting to like it more now that you pointed out. I think you can get into a lot of board states with this card where they can't even play their sweeper. Like, say they have Golden Demise, they can't even play it because they'll just die if they do.
Right. Yeah. And it's nice that it doesn't tap to create the Saprolings. Though I don't think Saprolings are going to have a ton of extra land. But once again, with that, if you use that Saga that lets you tap any creature for mana, maybe, a couple turns you make 3 or 4 Saprolings off this guy.
Thelona is not on board with Saprolings. You should watch the earlier portion of the stream. Jalen and I were actually coming up with some fun ideas.
Yeah, we don't know how good they're going to be, but they're certainly going to be fun. That's for sure.
Yeah. Okay. Tat Yova Benthic Druid. Merfolk Druid, legendary. Whenever a land enters the battlefield under your control, you gain 1 life and draw a card. 3/3.
I don't think this goes in a Merfolk deck. So then it's like, what deck does this go in? This goes in Ramp. I think in a Ramp deck, this card is very good because you draw in a ton of cards.
Yeah, I wonder how easy it is to fit this in. Like, are you scared that it might die to removal, or do you it's just worth the risk because of how good this payoff is?
Like, it reminds me of Tireless Tracker. Now, Tireless Tracker cost 3 and got +1/+1 counters, but Tireless Tracker is a very good card.
Yeah. One thing that is cool is that you could play this right away and then play a land, and you'd already draw a card before they could even interact with it.
Yeah. I think if there is just a lands deck, this might be the one creature you could put in the lands deck. Anytime you ramp, you're going to be happy to have this card out. If you're ramping, you can probably do this on turn 4, maybe even turn 3. I don't know. I think it's interesting. Perhaps it's overcosted. Certainly not a 4 of.
Yeah, I'm a little nervous to run it myself because even though you do draw those cards, you do need to untap with it.
Yeah, now if you had something already out like Wayward Swordtooth, then you could play that and then play 2 lands.
Yeah.
Then you're really starting to get your money's worth.
If you can get even like 2 or 3 land drops with this out, it's pretty crippling to your opponent. You know who she kind of competes with for me is Nissa from Kaladesh, where her ultimate draws you a card every time you play a land.
Yeah, people are saying that she's Nissa's ultimate on a stick.
Yeah.
Yeah, it looks super easy to remove. I agree.
Yeah, I would not want to run her over Nissa, though, that's for sure.
And the problem with this being your only creature in like a lands-only ramp deck is that everyone's going to have a handful of removal just sitting there.
Yeah, I think the verdict is out for me. I don't like it.
Yeah, I'll play it in my ramp deck until until I find something better to play.
Yeah, sounds fair. All right, here's a cool card. Teferi, Hero of Dominaria, 3 white blue. Legendary Planeswalker, +1, draw a card at the beginning of the next end step. Untap 2 lands, -3. Put target non-land permanent into its owner's library, 3rd from the top. -8, you get an emblem with whenever you draw a card, exile target permanent and opponent controls, 4 loyalty.
Well, this thing is the best Planeswalker that we got in the set, for sure. The 4 loyalty is nice, which means it can't just be lightning bolted
Yep.
off. It can defend itself with the -3 because it can bounce something. And the +1 draws you a card and lets you untap 2 lands for hopefully a counter spell. But you can't get that till your end step, so you can't counter spell immediately. And the ultimate is pretty freaking good because normally when you're playing blue-white, you're drawing cards. So, and you get to choose. It's not like a random one or the opponent gets to choose. You get to choose which permanents. So once you ultimate it, I think the game is over.
Yeah, like all of us have played with Ulamog at some point, and one of the best things about Ulamog is his cast trigger, just exiling 2 permanents. And this is basically Ulamog's cast trigger on crack.
Right.
It seems so difficult. It's probably one of the best ultimates I've even seen. It's like up there with Torch of Defiance power level.
Yeah, I like some of Liliana's ultimates, the 3-drop one.
Yeah.
Just keep getting zombies. That's pretty notable.
Yep. He starts off at 4, so you would get his ultimate in 4 turns after you get him out.
Yeah, unless you have Oath of Teferi, and then you would get it in 2 turns.
Yep.
And you would draw 2 cards while you were doing it.
Yeah, all of his abilities just seem so good. Like, you can hold, like you said earlier, you can hold open counter spell or whatever you need to hold open after you use his +1. His -3 just seems crippling. Like, Commit to Memory has always been a pretty good card, and this puts it even further deep into their library. Combine that with the shuffle effect, which we have many, and you can just take away a Scarab God. Yeah, I find very few things to complain with about Teferi. He just seems all around amazing.
By the way, what up, Dusty Crevice, Larson, and Angry Lobster? Yeah, this card seems like a fantastic win con in white-blue. But the question is white-blue going to be a thing?
Probably.
Well, I mean, I've been running white-blue approach a lot, man, and these red deck wins and aggro decks and mono green aggro is going to be really strong. And Shard mentions Carnage Tyrant. I mean, people are going to try it, but whether it's going to be able to hold up against some of the really strong aggro strategies, I don't know.
It seems so difficult if you think about 4 Settle the Wreckage and you just untap your white lands. If we ever get a Fumigate-like card, I mean, we already have Slaughter the Strong. I'm just trying to think of how do I protect this Teferi.
Yeah, I mean, I have Settles. Settles don't get there. Maybe if I had more, but not really. I think it would be nice to accelerate this card using some artifacts.
Yep. He fits right into your approach deck, actually. He draws cards.
I would slam him in that approach deck in a second.
Yeah.
But I think this is probably even better in just pure white-blue control. So this should make CGB happy because I know he's been trying some of that. Which ends up being a super annoying deck to play against. Like once they turn the corner and they're just drawing cards and this inevitability comes, it sucks to play against, but
yeah, I imagine I'm gonna get into many states where someone slams the Teferi and I'll be like, oh, well, fun, good game.
Yeah, people are talking about white-blue flash, so you flash in that Raph, who gives all your legendaries flash, and the next turn you flash in this at the opponent's end of turn. So you pretty much you get at least one, and then you can -3. I think this goes just fine with getting into the trials. I think you can play both there. And then I guess Oath of Teferi gets a little better, though. Getting into trials, I guess the +1 of getting into trials activating twice would be sweet. You could make 2 creatures not do any damage.
Whew, yeah.
And you can play Thematic Compass, which is an artifact, so you'd be able to flash that in.
We have Dovin Bond from Kaladesh. He's also a blue-white planeswalker.
Yeah, the question is, can you survive till turn 4 or something? Or are you just going to get run over by Steel Leaf Champions or Earthshaker Kenras or Gabos or even Is It Wizards?
It's just one of those decks where you need to run a ton of sweepers, ton of counter spells, just your good old-fashioned control deck.
Yeah, it's a good one. It's certainly a good one. And if you're going to be annoying anyway by playing white-blue control, you might as well get a super annoying planeswalker to go with it.
Yeah. All right. Tiana, Ship's Caretaker. 3 red, white, Angel Artificer. Flying first strike. Whenever an aura or equipment you control is put into a graveyard from the battlefield, you may return that card to its owner's hand at the beginning of the next end step.
Kruzix, I have run into opposing Gideons, and they are pretty annoying. I don't think I lost the game for it. I think I found a way to get... Normally I can settle the Gideon or something. Cast out. Or Ixalan's Binding or something like that. So it's not that big of a deal. All right. Angel Artificer. For 5, that's a 3/3. There is that other angel that pumps angels.
Yep.
I don't like this card. It's just another expensive angel that it's not great enough.
3/3 for 5. It's got some cool keywords, but I don't think that aura decks are, that good, and I don't think just because she helps them means they're going to be viable. I agree.
Yeah, I know I gave you some heck over not knowing Cawblade, but I agree with you. The equipment cards are just not that good. Now, Char's going to mention Helm of the Host, which we'll get to.
Yeah, we're going to be talking about all these equipment pretty soon.
Yeah, but there's not too much great. Yeah, actually, really darn soon. This is the last gold card.
Yeah.
I do like the flavor. Nothing is too broken to mend. I'm in favor of that flavor. You won't mention Helm of the Host? All right, but I think that does it for gold cards. Let's... Do
you want to read your one colorless card?
Well, I'm just going to group colorless and artifacts together.
Yeah, for any of you guys that are unaware, there's literally only one colorless card, and it's Karn, and then there's the artifacts afterwards. That's the joke.
Yeah. So let's get into it. I guess I'll read all these. All right, Karn. Scion of Urza. 4 generic mana. Reveal the +1. Reveal the top 2 cards of your library. An opponent chooses one of them. Put that card into your hand and exile the other card with a silver counter on it. -1. Put a card you own with a silver counter from exile into your hand. -2. Create a 0/0 colorless construct artifact creature token. With this creature gets +1/+1 for each creature you control.
Each artifact.
Each artifact you control. Yes.
I like him. I like that he starts off with 5 for a 4-mana planeswalker. That's pretty fat. It's a lot of loyalty points. He doesn't really have an ultimate, but all of his abilities seem decent. You get card draw, and you get even more selection later on with the cards that have silver counters on them. You have to just run a ton of artifacts with him, which might make him bad in Arena until we get Kaladesh. but I think that -2 could get pretty decent once we start getting, all of these Kaladesh artificers and what have you. I like it.
Yeah, there's a lot of good things going. I already was trying thinking about mono white artifacts or white blue artifacts or historic even. This is a legendary planeswalker, which activates all your legendary sorceries.
Yep.
Once again, I'm thinking about trying to use the Thrawn Saga for Armageddon. If we can make our mana base entirely out of artifacts, then this guy's easy to cast with colorless mana. It can defend itself for -2. You can put some kind of chump blocker out there because you should have one artifact out by that time. And then, yeah, otherwise you're just drawing cards with it, which seems great.
Yeah, I think you build a deck around Karn. You don't just throw him in a deck without artifacts. So I think when you do -2 with him, you should be able to have some decently sized creature.
I don't know if you build a deck around Karn. I think you build around artifacts, and Karn is just a really sweet payoff card for playing a bunch of artifacts.
Oh no, yeah, that's what I meant. Like you just have a ton of artifacts in Karn.
Yeah, it just seems like a really nice payoff card. You get card draw. Yeah, it's good, and the 5 toughness is also very nice. Goes straight up to 6, and you get a card.
Because -1 is also like, it's a -1. That's not many loyalty points that you're losing, and plus you'll have selection because
Yep.
eventually you're gonna have a bunch of cards with silver counters on them, and you get to pick the best one of those. That seems pretty fun.
Revel in riches, someone's saying. Yeah, or Brass's Bounty. You have these like little scrappy constructs that you've been making all game, and then you play Brass's Bounty and then swing in with a bunch of 8/8s or 10/10s. That's
Yeah.
pretty janky. I like that idea.
The idea that I have is Tezzeret.
A blue
Which
black.
is +1. Yeah.
What set is Tezzeret from?
He's from Ether Revolt, I believe.
Is he? Okay.
Yeah.
But yeah, right now I'm feeling mono white or white blue artifacts more than blue black, though traditionally Dimir is the artifact land.
Yeah, I mean, I think he can fit quite well in either, because he just seems like a pretty good card.
Yeah, I'm definitely would like to play with this guy. Would be super happy to ICR him or pack him. Not sure if it's going to be the first mythic wild card I spend on. I'm not sure about that. All right, artifacts. Aether Glider 3. I'm not going to say generic every time. Bird construct. Oh my god, the bird deck is alive. Flying,
Even the artifacts have birds.
flying 2/1 Aether Glider can't block.
Meh.
Garbage. Oof. A Maranthine Wall. 4. Artifact creature wall. Defender 06. Pay 2. The wall gains indestructible till end of turn.
I kind of dislike this card because I know we have some walls that we had a wall in duels that was 2 mana for an 06. And this is 4 mana for an 06. It can get indestructible, but you have to hold mana up just to do that. I just feel like it's kind of expensive, and I don't really like it.
I did say Aether Glider, and it's Aether Glider instead, which I never want to say again. And luckily the card sucks, so hopefully I won't have to. This is pretty interesting to me. An 06 indestructible wall is pretty good times.
You know who he does synergize well with is Karn. If you could just set up some defenses, and it also is an artifact.
Yep. Yeah. Question is, what do you want to dirtle for that you like this wall?
Hour of Devastation, you could survive it with this.
That's true.
It survives most red sweepers, which is nice.
Yeah. 4 cost seems a bit high. Shard is saying this is a shout out to another wall. Could be. It's okay. But certainly a very special deck it goes in. All right, Blackblade Reforged 2, legendary artifact equipment. Equipped creature gets +1/+1 for each land you control. Equipped legendary creature for 3. Equip any other creature for 7.
So you never run this in a deck with normal creatures. 7 is just ridiculous. But for 3, I mean, you can get a lot of +1 because of that, but I don't know. I'm still not really a fan of it. Because that's still a pretty serious mana commitment before that even takes place.
I like it. I think it's a pretty nice piece of equipment. Equipments are better than enchantments most of the time because you can keep bouncing them around to your legendary creatures. And the +1/+1 for each land is a lot of pluses. I don't
You know
know.
what this would be fun on? Would be the Angel Dawnbringer or whatever her name was.
Yeah, it'd be fun on that blue-green Simic Nissa on a stick. You could make it harder to kill.
It's kind of funny.
And it only equips for 3. I don't know. It's a pretty good piece of equipment. It's not like it's the kind of equipment that I would spend my whole deck just trying to search for, just to equip. But it's okay.
You do have to have like a legendary deck in mind to run this.
California says put this on turn 2 Shauna, the green-white one.
Oh,
And Hope of Gearpour beatdown. I don't think we made it to that yet, right? Hope of... Yeah, I mean, just... Oh, I see. That's a legendary artifact Thopter. Oh, yeah, that's coming up. Yep, that's interesting there, too. All right, you ready? Blood
Yep.
Tallow Candle. 1. Artifact. 6 and tap it. Sacrifice Blood Tallow Candle. Target creature gets -5/-5 to the end of the turn.
I think you're playing this so that you can have artifacts for your Karn or something, but even then, I think it's pretty mediocre.
Yeah, it's like Universal Solvent, but kind of worse. But once again, if you're just trying to drop turn 1 artifacts, this is a turn 1 artifact.
Yeah.
That's about it. It's historic, too. Keep in mind, all artifacts are historic, so they trigger anything that talks about historic. All right. Damping Sphere. 2. Artifact. If a land is tapped for 2 or more mana, it produces 1 colorless instead of any other type and amount. Each spell a player casts costs 1 more to cast for each other spell that player has cast this turn.
So it punishes those ramp decks that run enchantments that make lands be able to tap for 2. And I guess it punishes red deck wins to an extent if they're trying to just dump their hand out. It seems really kind of niche though.
Yeah,
Like
this
maybe sideboard.
this seems to me like we're going to see it in Modern or perhaps Legacy. But I don't think it does enough of anything with the cards we have. Yeah, Dusty, I agree 100%. This is just made for other formats. This totally, completely hoses Tron and it completely hoses Storm in terms of Modern. And it hoses Storm in Legacy as well. Yeah, this is just not made for this format. But it's a cool card.
Yeah.
Just not for us right now. But like I can't see running this at all ever. Like even if you're trying to dump a bunch of artifacts, I wouldn't run this really.
Yeah, there's 1 drops that you can do rather than a 2 drop.
Forebear's Blade. 3. Artifact equipment. Equipped creature gets +3/+0, has vigilance and trample. You were looking for some trample earlier, Ninja.
That's
Whenever
true.
equipped creature dies, attach Forebear's target to a creature you control. It costs 3.
pretty expensive, but I really like the upside of when the creatures do die, you just get a free equip. And that's the big problem that I have with artifacts is that they're just very mana intensive. Um, you do have to equip it at least once, though. That's the problem. Like, it's still 6 mana investment the first time you equip, but every subsequent equip, you know, is just easy, assuming you have another creature around.
Yeah, I like this a lot. Put this on Grun, and you're in freaking business.
Yeah.
How does Grun work? It doubles the power and toughness, so you'd be able to double the 3 as well. You pretty much have to kill anything it's on, and then you start getting the free equips. I think this goes good in a ramp deck. It's not even legendary. It is historic. I think it's cool to put a few of in a lot of those maybe mono green decks or something like that.
Yeah, I was thinking the same thing. Mono green looks like it could use this. And mono green, the list that most of us are envisioning does run Llanowar elves, which means you'll have extra mana to try and equip this to something.
Yeah. It seems pretty good. And Vigilance and Trample are great to put on a massive creature that doesn't have either.
Yeah, and I think there's not many that have Vigilance or Trample in the mono green list.
Put this on Fanatical Firebrand. Yeah, maybe. All right. Gilded Lotus. 5. Artifact. Tap it. Add 3 mana of any one color.
You have to get to turn 5, but once you do, you automatically free up 3 mana as soon as it comes out. I really like this card with that Saga deck that you were talking about, where it destroys all lands. I think this card has some potential, but you do have to get it out, and that is the problem.
Yeah, I think you ramp this. I mean, yeah, once again, if you're making the Armageddon deck, you play some Power Stones or Razka Relics on turn 3. This comes out turn 4, which means turn 5 you can cast Armageddon. If you can find a way to untap permanents, then you're really talking like Vizier, whatever of the Tumbling Sands. Thelona says this fights with Hour of Promise. I agree. The question is, do you want lands or do you want artifacts?
Yeah, like if you're going for the Saga that destroys land, then maybe you want Gilded Lotus, but otherwise, I'd probably pick Hour of Promise in most other scenarios.
Yeah, I certainly want this card, and I certainly want to play it, so I really hope I get it at some point.
Yep.
All right. And of course, this is a reprint from back in the day. Guardians of Koilos. 5. Artifact creature construct 4/4. When Guardians of Koilos enters the battlefield, you may return another target historic permanent you control to its owner's hand.
So historic is what again? Like Saga, legendary artifact.
That's what it says. Yep.
And
But this is specific, so it says permanent. So you don't actually get sorceries. It's the one thing you can't get with this.
Yeah, I like the effect, but 5 mana is pretty expensive to do such an effect, so not really too high on him.
Raph gives him flash. We're never going to hear the end of this Raph. Yeah, this card just doesn't seem good enough. It's just a common. It's priced like a common should be, so it's okay, but...
Yep.
A legendary land would be historic if it wasn't a legendary enchantment. But a legendary enchantment is historic and a permanent, so this could get back a legendary enchantment. All right, Shard's favorite card. A Helm of the Host. 4. Legendary artifact equipment. At the beginning of your combat, on your turn, create a token that's a copy of equipped creature. Except the token isn't legendary if equipped creature is legendary. That token gains haste. Equip 5.
I don't really like this card that much. I understand why people might like it, but I mean, I'm already kind of skeptical of equip 3, and now you're showing me an equip 5. I just don't think it's going to be very easy to pull the stream off.
Yep. This is certainly pretty janky. And I know I keep saying it's Shard's favorite when I know it's not really his favorite, but he has been talking about it a lot. It does ridiculous stuff. So you can't really make the equip cost lower or it would be broken, I think. Like, you
Yep.
can just get another
That's fair.
Scarab God. You can get, even though another Scarab God doesn't help that much, but you can get another Dari Gaz, all kinds of stuff. And you know what happens at the end of your turn? Nothing. You get to keep the token. Most of these effects, you sacrifice your token. The token gets haste, and you sacrifice it, but nothing happens. You just keep making tokens.
You'd have to set it up in a way where you cast it and then at a later point equip it. That's tough though.
Yeah, everybody else is. Yeah, the fact that you don't sack it is just nutso. I mean, the thing is, once you get this out, if you have a couple legendary creatures, this is all you want to do with your mana. Like, if they kill the creature that has this, I think you're happy to spend 5 to re-equip it. It's kind of like cheating GPG because it works at the beginning of your combat, but it's super great with creatures that have awesome ETBs. Like, if you put this on Ravenous Chupacabra and you just make a Chupacabra every turn and you win with a sea of Chupacabras.
I think for this card to work, and it probably almost never works, but I think if you want to make it work, you have to go even deeper into jank, and you have to run like hexproof, probably that hexproof angel, and then that sort of protects whatever you want to equip it to. That's kind of how I would go about it.
Shard wants to put this on Zakama on the same turn.
Okay. I mean, yeah, I guess it makes sense. You're gonna have what, 9 mana open?
Now, there's a modern card, I think, that lets you put equipment onto a creature directly from your hand. So I don't know if this will make it into modern because it's probably a bit too slow, but the fact that you could just directly put this from your hand attached to a creature is pretty gross.
I like putting this onto the Sphinx. That's a 5/3, and whenever it gets targeted, counter it for the first time.
I hate Glyphkeeper. I don't like talking about Glyphkeeper.
You gotta. I feel like you have to try and target this onto something that's by definition hard to kill.
Yeah, if you could cheat this onto the battlefield, even if like you just get to play it from your graveyard or something and circumvent one of the costs, that's pretty cool too. This card is certainly going to lead to some people doing broken things, but it's very hard to get going. Stoneforge Mystic, yeah, that's what I was thinking of. I'm pretty sure.
Which one's Stoneforge?
That's the modern card.
Oh, okay.
That automatically equips equipment. All right, let's move on while that's getting brought up. I guess we were spammed too hard. Howling Golem, 2/3 artifact creature golem. Whenever Howling Golem attacks or blocks, each player draws a card.
I actively dislike this card because I feel like if we're taking 2 decks at a just base power line level, I think the guy that's running the Howling Golem probably has the weaker deck than the guy who's on the other side of the table. So enabling card draw for the other player is probably going to benefit them more than you, just because of how janky I think this is.
Well, but you get to control when it attacks or blocks, which is nice. Unlike Howling Mine, which just always procs. So you do have some control over it, and when you need a card, you need a card.
Yep.
Yeah, you do give the other player cards, which is always terrible. I don't know. Let's see what chat thinks about this card, because this card is pretty interesting. You guys have any input on this Howling Golem? And whether you think he's going to be worth running in a certain deck? What deck do you run on? Once again, maybe the blue-white artifact deck Hot Garbo, says Dusty Crevice.
Yeah, like I'm just trying to think of any matchup against this. RDW, Monsters, Dimir, Scarab God. Any of those three decks, like if they're drawing cards and you're drawing cards, they're probably gonna have better cards.
Yeah. I just don't know if you want an artifact creature out that early. Because if you play this, then you play Karn turn 4, then it helps proc the -2. Pure garbage, says CGB. All right. No one likes it. We'll leave it. We'll leave it be.
Poor Howling Golem.
I know. I wanted chat to come up with something good, and they're just haters. All right. Icy Manipulator, 4, artifact. 1, and tap it. Tap target artifact, creature, or land. This is a reprint. Go ahead.
Pretty good if you can resolve it, but 4 mana before you can start doing these kinds of things. I think I prefer Thematic Compass type cards over this. I guess you could tap mana rocks, like the one we were just talking about, like Gilded Lotus. But nah, I'm not a big fan of it.
No, I think power creep got the best of this card. This card is just too slow, and the effect is not great. Maybe I'm wrong, but I mean, you can do this like during their draw step and stuff, but you can only do it once. I just don't think it has enough power in this day and age.
Yeah, agreed.
Yeah, was Icy Manipulator different before? But right now, I just don't think it's strong enough. All right. Joyra's Familiar, 4, artifact creature, and a bird. 2/2 flying. Historic spells you cast cost 1 less to cast.
Man, they really made Joyra's Bird pretty lame. Yeah, I'm not a big fan of this. It's just really expensive for making things slightly cheaper.
This reminds me of, what's that movie with Perseus and the Kraken? Clash of the Titans.
Yeah,
This reminds me of the owl from Clash of the Titans. Bird with beer goggles.
I have not seen that movie, but I know who Perseus is in mythology, so I figured that was probably what you were talking about.
Historic spells costing 1 less is pretty good, including Karn, but I wish this was 3 and not 4. It's also killable, but it's kind of like, yeah, it's just 1 too expensive in my opinion. But I don't know. If you're really just playing nothing but artifacts and historics, and you're looking for critical mass once again of artifacts, maybe this is fine. And you can.
I know there was
If you have 2 of these out, you can cast any, artifact that costs 2 for free, which is good.
Yeah, there was a card similar to this in Duels that costed 3 mana and made artifacts 1 less to cast.
Yeah, it was like Foundry
Inspector, I think.
Yeah, Foundry Inspector.
And he was okay, but I think 4 to 3 is a big difference.
Yeah, you can cast a second for 3. Everyone's telling us. But Foundry Inspector and Chief of the Foundry are sweet cards. But yeah, Foundry Inspector is almost the same, but this does do historic and not just artifacts. This also gets me to my Armageddon a turn earlier, because that costs 6. So I could play this turn 4 and then play my Armageddon turn 5. Which
I feel like you need to ramp Joyra's Familiar out and then ramp other stuff out.
True.
Like you Llanowar Elves so that you can play Joyra Familiar on turn 3 so that you can play something else on turn 4.
True. I agree with that. Jousting Lance, 2. Free if you have 2 Joyra's Familiars. Equipped creature gets +2/+0. As long as it's your turn, equipped creature has first strike. Equip 3.
Feels kind of mediocre to me. It's really too bad that the first strike is only on your turn. Not a fan.
Yep, I don't like this. This is just Garbo. Juggernaut. 4. Artifact creature, Juggernaut, 5/3. Juggernaut attacks. Each combat, if able, Juggernaut cannot be blocked by walls. This is a reprint, and I'm not sure I like this art. I think the older art better.
Yeah. So this card is just amazing because Amaranthine Wall, which we talked about earlier, cannot block it. So really good in my book.
Yeah, this card I feel like should be a common, but it's a classic. I played my share of Juggernauts and Jusm Jins in the same deck, and I was rolling on people. All right, Mishra's Self-Replicator, 5. Artifact creature, assembly worker, 2/2. Whenever you cast a historic spell, you may pay 1. If you do, create a token that's a copy of Mishra's Self-Replicator.
I was initially very excited, but then I saw that it was a 2/2 for 5. Still though, if you can get into these crazy janky board states, you could do this. Doesn't it kind of compete with Helm of the Host? They do very similar things, creating copies.
Yeah, but this does it for 1 once it hits the board. And each one can do this. So then the next historic you could play, you could tap 2 and make 2. Like, it could get out of hand pretty fast, which is probably why they made it a 2/2 and cost 5. Because it could get super out of hand. It's like a Polyraptor that you can pay for.
I imagine you just run 4 of these and a bunch of like 1-drop or 2-drop historics, like as cheap as you can go, and then you get very wide.
By the way, I was able to settle someone who made a bunch of Polyraptors and attacked all with, and he immediately scooped. That was yesterday.
Oh no,
that was good. Felt good. I don't know. This card's pretty interesting and certainly has a lot of jank implications. I'm gonna try it out, but it is rare, so that's a bit of a bummer for trying it out. Here's your ramp payoff. Yeah, I mean, once you get going. So wait, it triggers itself, right? No, you have to cast a spell, so you still have to cast. All right. Next, Mox Amber. That world-famous casting cost of 0. Legendary artifact. Add 1 mana of any color among legendary creatures and planeswalkers you control.
So if you have a deck with a good amount of legendaries, then this is a card that I think you put in. 0 mana to just get 1 extra mana. To me, that is a bargain. But you do have to have the right deck for it. And assuming you do, it's great.
Yeah, I think this has to go in the mono artifact deck. The fact that it's legendary is a bummer. And it is super dependent. Like, a lot of time it could be doing nothing.
You could play it out and then tap it and then play the second Mox Amber, and then you'd have 2 extra mana for the turn for the legend roll.
Yep, that's true. And sometimes you can get them back, and it does have a casting cost of 0, which when you're talking about recursion and loops is
pretty fun.
Yep. Karizev into Hazaret, says Thelona. You need legendary creatures or planeswalkers, which means it's not historic. If this was historic, it would be way better. But it is a frickin' Mox, and this is the first Mox we've seen in many, many years in Magic. So, cool. I'm going to try it. I probably won't spend my Mythic Wildcard on it, but you never know. Navigator's Compass, 1. Artifact. When Navigator's Compass enters the battlefield, you gain 3 life. Tap it until end of turn. Target land you control becomes the basic land type of your choice in addition to its other types.
I kind of like this. Like if you really need to have mana fixing and you have a deck with, I don't know, like 3 or 4 colors, doesn't seem awful. That being said, it is pretty janky, and if I had a full collection, I probably wouldn't use this.
Oh, Via. Yeah, I don't know. This seems like something that's a pretty sweet late pickup in draft. The 3 life is on turn 1 is okay.
Yeah.
But it doesn't tap for mana by itself or anything. And it just...
I feel like I'd rather run a Razga Relic than this.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's cool looking. I like the art, and I don't know. It might seem more play than I think it is, but it's okay. It's common.
It's like a GPS. It's fancy.
Good in
The art
pauper.
for
Yeah,
it.
that's true. And deserts don't hurt you for tapping a color. Sure. Partic Wanderer 6 artifact creature golem trample 5/5.
Just a generic creature.
Yep. Power Stone Shard 3
Hey.
artifact. Nice.
Shard made his way into Magic.
Shard shout out. Tap, add colorless for each artifact you control named Power Stone Shard.
I really want to just run 4 of these and get them out somehow. I know there's a creature in blue that searches for artifacts with CMC 3.
Trophy mage.
Yeah, so you could get out all your Power Stones and then ramp into something big. It could be okay.
I like this card a ton, and this is why one of the reasons I want to play that mono white or white blue artifact only ramp. I hate Tron, but it's kind of Tron in a way. I think this card is sweet. You play Gilded Lotus, you play 4 of these, you play some Mox, you play some other ramp, and you just have this whole colorless mana base based off of artifacts, and this is the main card to do that with, in my opinion. And
Yeah,
I don't know, it
even
seems
if
like tons of fun.
Yeah. Like, even if you only have 1 of them, you already get a generic mana for it. And then if you get 2 of them out, you get 4 extra mana.
Yeah.
Or 2 extra mana from each one.
Yeah, Shard
Seems pretty good.
has gone off the deep end here. He wants to do Touch of Tezzeret on the Power Stone and then put Helm of the Host on there.
I mean, it's his card, so he's got to go off the deep end for it.
Mirage Mirror. Let's see. It costs 2. So, yeah.
Do you run Power Stone Shard plus Helm of the Host?
That's what Shard wants to do. But you can't put Helm of the Host on Power Stone Shard. You can only put it on a creature, which is why you need Tezzeret Touch. Yeah, no, there's some wacky things, and I'm certainly going to try this card way out. And it's common, right? So 4 of will be no problem, like right away, which is awesome.
Yep.
All right, Shield of the Realm 2 artifact equipment. If a source would deal damage to equipped creature, prevent 2 of that damage. Equip 1.
It's pretty cheap, and you can win some combats with this. But I don't know. Feels kind of janky to me.
Yeah. I mean, yeah. This equipment is not that great. It's got your 1 equip cost, but I think it looks cool once again. This is a little bit back to our stained glass theme that we had going on early in this review. Mono stained glass deck.
I like
Nuke's
Cardboard's
Magna Spray.
idea. This with Seatror and Ceratops to try and get those enraged triggers and survive.
Yeah, I don't know. It's weird playing equipment. I agree. It needs to be really good, or you need to have your deck focused on equipment for me to want to play this. Seems super good in draft or limited, though.
Yeah.
Just keep passing this around on whatever creature you really like. Short Sword 1 artifact equipment. Equipped creature gets +1/+1. Equip for 1.
This card might not actually be awful if you have like a Karn mass artifact deck. The equip cost is pretty cheap. You know, the CMC is cheap. It's kind of a junk card, but together, if you have a bunch of, cheap, bad artifacts out, you can create a okay board state. I don't hate it.
I mean, I think the idea here is you need to have a creature with Shield of the Realm and a Short Sword. Just for the flavor, man, to give it a sword and shield and throw it out there. That seems great.
Yeah.
But otherwise, this is okay. And it is a 1-drop. If you're looking for 1-drop artifacts, maybe it's a good one. I'm not sure. And people are talking about infinite polywrappers by putting the shield on your Forerunner.
Oh, man.
You know you like that, Ninja. All right. Skittering Surveyor 3. Artifact creature construct 1/2. When Skittering Surveyor enters the battlefield, you may search your library for a basic land card, reveal it, put it in your hand, then shuffle your library.
Oh, it's kind of like that flying artifact thing we had back in the day.
Pilgrim's Eye.
Yeah. I like mana fixing. It probably doesn't do too bad in these artifact decks. You just get to get another land. I like it.
This could make the cut. I mean, maybe this artifacts might be like a limited theme, you know, just a colorless deck.
Yeah, I can see that.
Because these are a lot of these are commons, so you could definitely stop a lot of these in limited.
I do like just living like little cantrips. So
Shard wants 4 shields and 4 swords. You need like Gishna for that. What's the Indian god who has all those arms?
I have no clue.
It's Gishna or something like that. Anyway, Sorcerer's Wand 1. Artifact equipment. Equipped creature has this creature deals 1 damage to target player or Planeswalker. If this creature is a wizard, it deals 2 damage to that player Planeswalker. Instead, equip 3.
I don't think this makes the cut for your wizard deck.
This makes anything into a Tim. Ganesh. Thank you, California. Direfleet Poisoner becomes a machine gun. Yeah, anything with Death Touch. This just kills things. On wizards, I don't think there's a wizard that has Death Touch. 2 damage to... Oh, wait, it's just a player, though. It's not a creature.
Yeah, that's the problem with it. I was thinking about Enrage with it, but you can't damage creatures. Like, you couldn't damage your own Enraged creature.
Yeah.
Even if you could, like, it just, I don't know. I'm not really quite sold on it.
I think it's very interesting, and there is Famished Paladin, Lifelink, Sorcerer's Wand is infinite combo, says Shard.
The problem I have with it is
true.
that, like, you make a wizard stack, and normally wizard stacks are pretty cheap from what I've seen. You want to just have a lot of cheap answers, whereas this has an equip 3 cost, which doesn't really fit in terms of cheapness.
Is it the same, Larson? I do like the Famished Paladin infinite combo. I'm all down for infinite combos. Maybe put the hexproof. Maybe you put it in like a Boggles deck, you know? And it gives you a little bit of reach for your Boggles deck at the end. Put this on a Slippery Scoundrel. Or it'd be much better on a Vigilant creature so that you could attack with the creature and then tap it at end of turn or something.
Who's the Famished Paladin? I forgot.
Famished Paladin is the 3/3 3/3 vampire, white vampire that it doesn't untap during your untap step, but it untaps if you've gained life this turn. So it has... Does it have lifelink already? No, it needs lifelink too. I don't think it has lifelink. So you need to also somehow give it lifelink. Yeah. You can put Squire's Devotion and then Sorcerer's Wand on your Famished Paladin, and then you're off to the races. Which is not out of the realm of possibility, to tell you the truth. And it's a 1, 2, 3 curve. I guess you have to equip the Sorcerer's Wand, so it's really turn 4. But if they don't deal with the turn 4, away you go. All right. Sparring Construct 1. Artifact creature construct. When Sparring Construct dies, put a +1/+1 counter on target creature you control. 1/1.
I mean, if they kill him on turn 1, they're not going to have a creature that they can put a counter on. But otherwise, if you get these mass artifact swarms, maybe he's good enough.
Yeah, I kind of like it. I mean, this is a shout out to like affinity decks with I think it's Scourger or something that lets you sacrifice creatures, sacrifice your artifacts, and turns it into +2/+2 counters. I don't think anyone really wants to kill this turn 1. Like,
Yeah, you're right. They're not going to use.
threatening enough, so you could still dump it, and I don't think anyone's going to care.
I'd feel hesitant to magma spray it if I had it open turn 1 and I saw this.
Like, I think you need this kind of thing with Joyra. If you have Joyra and the Owl, Joyra says you draw a card every time you cast an artifact, and if you have an Owl, this artifact is free. And then
So you're thinking Joyra and a ton of these like cheap artifacts.
And the Owl. So then you're just casting things for free and drawing a card every time, and you can just run through your deck.
Makes it feel kind of like a cycling deck, just how deep you can go.
Yeah, I don't know. But any of these really cheap casting cost artifacts with Joyra plus the Owl is craziness. It reminds me of the Cheerios deck, which we don't quite have.
I have not heard of that one.
That's a modern deck where you just basically draw your whole hand based on SRAM and something. It's a bunch of zero, like, what was it?
And it has nothing to do with the cereal.
Oh, I guess it's called Cheerios. Yeah, I forget why it's called Cheerios. All right, Thran, Temporal Gateway, 4, Legendary Artifact, 4, and tap it. You may put a historic permanent card from your hand onto the battlefield.
So you're going to want to have historic permanents that cost more than 4 for this to work. Which there are some. Like, are legendaries historics? I keep forgetting.
Yep.
So you could get that giant dragon that's like 7 mana out.
Mhm.
That sounds really cool.
Yeah,
But,
man.
It's kind of janky though.
I like this card a lot. I like anything that cheats. I'm always looking to cheat. And this card most certainly lets you cheat. And it lets you cheat all kinds of stuff. All
Shaolin
kinds
likes
of
to cheat.
legendaries. Like,
You
it
heard
doesn't
it here
even
first.
matter what colors your legendary is. You just cheat. You just cheat it in.
Someone said Nicol Bolas. That sounds pretty fun.
Yep. Sounds really fun. Don't you want to play Nicol Bolas on turn 5 or turn 4? I do. Once again, that Vizier of Tumbling Sands, which I still think has a possibility untaps any permanent, so you could do this twice, but you do need 8 mana. I think this is better than Planar Bridge.
Oh yeah, without question. That card is just
This
too
card
expensive.
seems super fun to me, and I want it. I want to try it. I like cheating. All right, Traxos, Scourge of Krieg. 4, legendary artifact creature construct, 7/7 trample. Traxos, Scourge of Krieg enters the battlefield tapped and doesn't untap during your untap step. Whenever you cast a historic spell, untap Traxos.
So, is there like some historic spell you can cast over and over again, like some recursion to just continuously untap this guy?
Well, that's why you need Joyra and some of
Yeah.
these really cheap ones. If you're
I remember you talking about this card not too long ago, and
this was
I
my
had some
preview
crazy
card,
ideas.
so yeah, I did card of the day.
yeah, I've
Yeah.
completely forgotten any of the ideas that were posted. And I had some ideas too, and I forgot them. But I guess you just got to run a ton of historics, and you get an undercosted 7/7 with trample.
Yeah,
I like it.
and it's legendary, which is good and bad. It's good. I mean, I think this is kind of the way you win with your mono artifact deck. Is this guy powering through eventually?
Yep.
Yeah, you can cast another one if you wanted to untap. Oh, wait, it enters the battlefield tapped. But I guess you could cast it and then sacrifice the one you just cast to untap it. And
That's
it only
true.
costs 4. It's pretty darn cheap. I like it. I think it goes in that artifact deck. I think it's a good beater, good beat stick.
I really want to figure out just how to break this card and make it untap constantly. There's probably a combo somewhere.
Yeah. Urza's Tome, 2. artifact. 3, tap it, draw a card, then discard a card unless you exile a historic card from your graveyard.
Sorry, I was still thinking about Traxos. I think I figured it out. You just gotta give it vigilance, right?
That's true. Or just
But,
what untaps creatures? Combat Celebrant?
Yep, that's another one.
Yeah.
Okay. Anyway, so Urza's Tome. Draw a card, then discard a card unless you exile a historic card from your graveyard. Seems like a pretty bad loot effect.
Well, it's not. Yeah. Yeah, I'm with Kruzix here. I think we need to keep our historics in the graveyard. There's too many chances to get them out. It only costs 2. It's very dirtily. Do I like this
Traxos.
better than Azor's Gateway? Probably not.
California is just saying Traxos plus Radiant Destiny. Wouldn't you need to name construct though? Are there enough constructs?
You can name. Can you name artifact?
I don't think so, because I think you'd actually need to name
Yeah.
a creature type.
Well, if that's your only creature, maybe that's okay. But of course, you're playing some artifact birds. Yeah, I don't know. This card just seems a little too dirtly and slow and weird. Drawing cards
Yeah, I
is
agree.
good, but playing it on turn 2 is good. That's cheap.
Why would you play this over the artifact that you like to preach about,
Azor's Gateway.
Azor's Gateway? Yeah.
I don't know. Because you can actually draw a card sometimes, as opposed to looting.
Hmm.
If there were more ways to get things out of exile, it'd be okay. But there's not really that many ways to get things out of exile. All right, Voltaic Servant 2, artifact creature construct. At the beginning of your end step, untap target artifact. Hey!
Hey.
Hey! 1/3. What do you think about this guy?
I kind of like him now that I have a tool for my Traxos.
Yeah, right?
Um,
It's Traxos' best little friend is like those little creatures, those lampreys that live on whales or whatever.
yeah. I really just want to make a Voltaic Servant Traxos Karn kind of deck. Like, that sounds fun to me.
Acrobatic maneuver combo. I'd have to check that. I don't quite know what acrobatic maneuver does. It's like a bounce spell, right? Yeah, this card seems great with Traxos. It's 2. It's a construct, so you can Radiant Destiny as well. Works. I don't know. It's a 2 for 1/3. Like, it's a pretty terrible bear, but it's certainly made to use with. I mean, it works with Gilded Lotus too. You know. It untaps
That's true.
Gilded Lotus. There's a lot of artifacts that are worth untapping and tapping again. It works with that Thrawn where you're trying to cheat stuff in. Like, it's certainly part of certain engines, and it could be a big part of certain engines.
Yeah, I agree.
Forefather's Blade. Forefather's Blade gave Vigilance and Trample. And it untaps it for Traxos. That's pretty good. I like that, Lobster. All right, Weatherlight. This is kind of one of the flagship cards, could I say, of the set. It's 4. It's a legendary artifact vehicle. It's a 4/5 vehicle with flying, crew 3. When Weatherlight deals combat damage to a player, look at the top 5 cards of your library. You may reveal a historic card from among them, put it in your hand, put the rest at the bottom of your library.
Looks pretty fun. I'd love to use this alongside, just all these other artifact creatures that we have, and just get a ton of card advantage with Weatherlight. Like, I think you can totally build around this and have enough artifacts in your deck where whenever this does deal combat damage, you'll just be able to get a ton of historic cards out. Seems good.
Yeah, pretty hard to block. It eats a Glorybringer. It eats a Phoenix.
Yep.
It's got that vehicle aspect, which gets around a lot of removal spells. I like it. Whether or not it's a 4 of, like Heart of Quran, I'm not sure. It costs 4.
like-
Heart of Quran costs
yeah.
2. Dice to
Could run both.
naturalize. Low.
I kind of want to try Scrap Heap Scrounger with this and just use it as like sort of a vehicles deck in that sense.
Right. Well, Scrappy Scrounger is also nice because it's historic. So every time you bring it back from the graveyard, you get to trigger things like Traxos.
Yeah, that's true.
So Scrappy Scrounger might be quite a good card, which would make your splash black in these decks. And it's legendary, but it's a legendary artifact, so it doesn't trigger a legendary sorcery, or when it turns... That's actually a pretty good question. So once you crew this, it becomes a creature. Is it now a legendary creature, so you could cast
Yes.
a legendary sorcery?
Well, I think so, because it's just a creature, right?
I think so too. Chat, what do you say about that? Dies to a braid. Yeah, every
It'd have to
artifact dies
be-
to a braid.
Yeah. It would just have to be crude though.
Thelona says yay. All right, that is it. We have the last section here, which is lands. And I can't remember if there's any good ones. I don't think there are that many good ones, but we might find one or two in here.
Yeah, all right, let's get started. Cabal Strongholds. It's colorless. 3 tap, add black for each basic swamp you control.
I don't like it. It's way too expensive. Who's playing that many basic swamps? It's weird. I don't think
Yeah.
it's good enough.
Like you have to lose 3 mana just before you can start gaining mana.
4
and you
mana
need to-
because you have to
Yeah,
tap
4.
in too.
You just need a lot of lands out just for it to start working, and I don't think it's worth it either.
Yeah. You need like mono black ramp and only have basic swamps.
The art is pretty cool though, whatever that is.
The art is cool, and I know DMK's on board, so maybe he'll figure it out and then prove me wrong. But this deck name hasn't been right for a long time. It still says green.
Yeah.
All right.
And next we have a bunch of the rare lands that enter the battlefield tapped unless you control X or X land. I'm really happy that we're getting these.
Check lands for the enemy colors.
Yep.
So let's just go through them fast. Clifftop Retreat. Oh man, Merfolk people are going to be loving this Hinterland Harbor, I'll tell you that. Isolated Chapel is great. White Black needs a lot of help there. All right, next.
All right. Memorial to Folly enters the battlefield tapped. 2 and a black, tap, sacrifice Memorial to Folly, return target creature card from your graveyard to your hand.
Seems okay.
Maybe as like a one of.
Yeah, it's just okay. Once again, it's not a basic swamp, so it doesn't help your Cabal. I don't know if it's better than like if near Deadlands or just a cycling land.
Yeah, I think I'd just rather run the deserts because, you know, the if near Deadlands does not come in tapped.
Yeah, it is not a desert, so there's that. I mean, we have to keep in mind that eventually everything before Ixalan is going to rotate out, and these cards will still be around, so we'll have to reevaluate at that point. But right now, deserts just seem way stronger.
Yeah, that's a good point.
Yeah, Path of Metal is possible, perhaps. All right, next.
Memorial to Genius. 4 and a blue, tap, sacrifice Memorial to Genius, draw 2 cards.
Now, this one's pretty good. Being able to be flooded late game and just sack a land to draw 2 cards seems good.
Yeah, I'm just not sure if I'd rather have that or just run a cycle land because we do have those.
I think I could find room, especially in mono blue. Probably in blue white.
Yeah, I could definitely
Let's
see
draw
that
2
for
cards,
mono
Shard.
blue.
Let's draw 2 cards. And it's off a land. It's not a card in your deck, you know? Because if you're already running
Yep.
26 lands, you have room to play around with some lands.
Yeah, maybe as like a 1 or 2 of, but
Yeah.
I think it does have to go into maybe just mono blue. You might be able to make it work for 2 color, but I don't want to mess with the mana base with tapped lands.
Might be good in those artifact decks. you know, where you don't even use your land too much. You're just using artifacts, and then you still get some card draw off your lands.
Gotcha, because they're all colorless, so you don't really need to
Yeah.
worry about what color.
All right.
All right. Memorial to Glory, 3 and a white, tap, sacrifice, Memorial to Glory, create 2/1/1 white soldier. Oh, they're not even knights. White soldier creature tokens.
Yeah, this one's okay. I mean, I guess if you're playing white weenie, sometimes you can get flooded and have nothing to do. So once again, I think this could be okay, but you also don't want tap lands in white weenie really very much.
Yeah, I cannot see myself running this over like Legion's Landing or Hashep Oasis type cards.
Yeah. I don't know why we're sacrificing these memorials either, Shard, to build another memorial. It helps government infrastructure, gives jobs to the people. All right, next.
All right, Memorial to Unity, 2 and a green, sacrifice Memorial to Unity. Look at the top 5 cards of your library. You may reveal a creature card from among them and put it into your hand. Then put the rest on the bottom of your library in a random order.
Meh. This one's also meh. These are all kind of meh.
Yeah, all of their counterparts from Hour of Devastation just seem so much better, but you do have a point that we will have to look at them more
Yeah.
closely once Hour of Dev rotates out.
Yeah, I mean, you could totally whiff with Memorial to Unity and just not find a creature, and then you just sacrificed your land, spent 4 mana, and just whiffed. That's terrible.
Yep.
All right.
Memorial to War, 4 and a red, tap, sacrifice Memorial to War, destroy target land.
Yeah, I like destroying land, so this one I'm a little more into. Like, what if there's a green-red ramp land destruction deck? Then this goes in for sure, I would say.
No, I agree. I think this is really fun. I know there's some creatures that actually let you play lands from your graveyard, and you could just do a whole land hate sort of thing. It'd be janky, but
Yeah, this
I
might
do
go in
think
the
it's-
lands deck. Ramanop Excavator is what you guys are thinking of.
yeah.
A bit late
I
for
like
land
it.
destruction. I don't know. You could still hit Search for Azcanta. You can hit Ramanop Ruins. Like, you don't really need to destroy all their lands. There's a lot of good lands that you'd like to destroy.
Yeah, like if you're facing a 2 or 3 color deck, you can just pick what land they need most and just start to, harass a certain color. I think you could be in great shape.
Yeah, I'm kind of very, very interested in red-green land destruction now with some Lanor Elves to get you started. And then you
Star of Extinction at the top end.
but there's that 4-drop red card. So you could play that on turn 3 and hit one of their lands on turn 3. And that's pretty good.
What 4-drop red card?
It destroys like an artifact or a land.
Oh, gotcha. Is it a sorcery?
Yeah, I was playing it in my black-red.
Yeah,
Mean
I know what you're talking about. Yep.
And destroying artifacts is cool too. So like that card's going to have more use. I think red-green land destruction is super fun. Probably isn't tier 1, but it's super fun.
Yeah. Would you say that Memorial to War is the best of the of these lands that we're getting for
Probably. I still like the blue one, but the red
Yep.
one's good too.
Okay, Sulphur Falls, really happy to have this for is it Wizards in particular?
Yeah, why did this not get paired with all the other ones? I don't know. I guess it's alphabetical.
I think so.
All
Yeah.
right.
And then Woodland Cemetery, Eugenides somewhere's gonna be happy for his journey to eternity. Check lands.
Demolish. Is Violent Impact? Do we have access to Violent Impact? Demolish is what I was thinking of. Yeah, Creeping Mold's okay too. All right, next.
Zal, oh man, how do I pronounce this? Zalfiren Void. When it enters the battlefield, scry 1.
I would say Zalfirin, but you never
Zalfirin,
know.
that sounds
Someone
right.
was making the argument that Wizards is allowed to pronounce cards any way they want. They don't actually have to follow the rules.
Yeah.
But I think this goes in your mono artifact deck 4 of easy.
That's a good point. I was initially kind of dismissive, but no, for playing things that don't require color,
Yeah,
it's pretty good.
easy 4, free scry. untapped.
also got
It's not tapped when it comes into play. It's great.
yeah, it's also got some pretty cool art. There's Teferi on there.
Is that Teferi and some sun coming up?
Yeah.
All right. I think that is it. We can look at some art here. Some pretty sweet art. So they got 3 different kinds of planes. Ooh, it's Cloud City. 4 different kinds of planes. Stonehenge and
Plans are
Cloud
pretty
City.
nice.
Am I going too fast? Do you want to look at all these arts, or are you pretty much done, Ninja?
I'm pretty much all set.
Yeah, I'm pretty much all set too. We're just gonna quickly go through these lands. Ooh, I like the underwater island. That's pretty cool. That reminds me of a weird movie. That swamp is pretty scary. It's like a Sauron swamp.
I'm so confused because the stream delay, like
I
you're
know.
looking at an
I'm sorry.
island.
I'm going fast. Kind of cool city one. Weird kind of plush mountain. Ooh, this one's a little scary looking.
We'll get to pimp out our arena lands,
Oh yeah,
whatever one we might
I'm
want to
always
use.
always thinking about them. And how's green look? I don't like this one with the roots and the thing in the background. Yeah, it's kind of cool. Ooh, this one is very green.
The last one?
Yeah.
Yep.
Okay. We did it.
DMK is not happy that they are not full art.